Peace and peace and peace and peace and peace and black first. And I'm sorry for the dead space. I really am. Elon Musk is being a big old hater because I don't know why some of these functions don't work when I go to start my spaces. But as I welcome people to send me music that they would like to be shared with the family to fill the dead space. You get dead space or you get me rambling about how there's dead space. So I apologize. I swear I'm not trying to just ramble on and on and on, but damn it if it isn't just awkward that y'all are not listening to anything at all right now. But I think that I'm ready. I do think that I'm ready. I've placed a couple things in the jumbo for you to take a peek at. It will help us in this conversation that I'd like to have today. I'm not going to be here all day. There's actually a few different spaces that I want to get in on today, and they all seem to be productive. So I'd like to start my Saturday afternoon off productively with you guys with this conversation. Millennial versus Generation X, help or get out the way. Um, Shout out to my brother Dwan. We actually had a similar type of conversation, and it made me think about we're having a real problem, and I think it's an age problem, and I don't want to say that I'm ageist, but maybe I am ageist. Maybe I just have an issue with old people, and it's been a problem my whole life, you guys. I've always been that student that got, insubordination written on my report cards and progress reports, and I don't necessarily just follow the rules per se. I am one of the people who ask a lot of questions. Man, I can't help but ask questions. I ask why at the wrong time, and sometimes I get it. Sometimes you're not supposed to ask questions because you're supposed to get it. And maybe that's just learning how to be on code. Some things you learn vicariously or you experience it because people are doing it around you, and then you get to see an example of what they're talking about. Or you grow up in the church and they start telling you that you were created from a rib, but nobody died, and then there was no birth, but then births happen. We're born from wombs, but then you were created from a rib. You start asking questions, and then you get your mouth washed out with soap, and it's just, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'm not sitting here trying to put my experience on you guys, but I am saying that I've always had an issue with people who are older than me telling me that things should be a certain way when I can look at things and see, well, it could be a whole bunch of different ways. And if it can be a whole bunch of different ways, then why aren't we exploring these different ways? Why are we solely focused on one way? But then I get that can be messy or confusing or clouded or jumbled. So to help me start off this conversation, thank you, Dewan, for accepting the mic. Um, Millennials versus Generation X, help or get out the way. I'd like your thoughts about what this would look like. And to help out, I threw something in the jumbo that might help out. The other day, you had an event that we came to in LA, and you came to uh, Miss Tashina Arnold with an idea, and she's older than us. She is in Generation X. I wrote that down. Hold on. What are the years? Generation X is, yeah, no,
Yeah, she's
yes,
Gen
yes,
X.
she's Generation X. That's 43 to 58. So she's older than 43. She's a lot
Mhm.
younger than 58, but she is Generation X. And you went to her with an idea, and she did not, oh, not only did she say yeah, but she supported in a big way, and she's still supporting. And to me, that's helping. And maybe you can expound on that.
Yeah, we had this conversation about that. You generally don't get help from Gen X. Gen X is like a forgotten generation. The baby boomers kept them out of power and said, "Oh, look at Joe Biden's president." You know what I mean? And Trump is probably going to be the next one. So baby boomers are still kicking their ass, and so they feel they want to do the same to us. And they finally got a little bit of power, and most of that power lies here on the internet. It's still, not it's corporate, but they're still sharing power, the corporate power with the baby boomers. First generation to really not own their space. The Gen X, like the baby boomers kicked the silent generation out. The silent generation kicked out the generation before it out. And by the time those generations got into their 50s, late 40s and into their 50s, they had absolute power over what was going on. Generation X never got that. They still to this day sharing power with the baby boomers, and now here we come as millennials taking power. So a lot of them, feel some kind of way about that, and they see, and so they don't. They're making them as Generation X. I have, and I'm gonna get to Sheena in a second. Um, but Generation X has a, they have a, I have a, I, we are as a millennial, yeah, older millennial. I'm 42. I have a strong insight on Generation X. My brother and sister Gen X, and I remember growing up as a kid watching Gen X on TV, and Gen X was the rebel generation. You know what I mean? That was generation that was to come and change it all. I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, hearing Gen X. Racism isn't going to exist with Gen X because listen to this here. They're saying this in 1991 because rap music is bringing the generations together. We won't have racism by the year 2000. And Generation X is going to be a major reason for it. I remember hearing all this shit when I was a kid. And Gen X this and Gen X was this rebel this. And the whole point of hip hop taking, the whole reason why hip hop took off, because that was Gen X's rebellion against the baby boomers through the music. Well, that shit was 40 fucking years ago, and them niggas still ain't got no goddamn power. What we find is Gen X is a huff and puff generation, but they didn't really do nothing. And now here we come, and I'm not saying all Gen X because there's some Gen X that definitely got a lot of shit done. But most of them are just rebellious to be rebellious in the early 90s. And then by the time they got to the late 90s into the early 2000s, they just conformed. And all that huff and puff of the late 80s into the early 90s that they was talking about, all that rah-rah shit, they just fell in line, just like the baby boomers fell in line, when they got jobs. Baby boomers were rah, rah, rah until they got them government jobs. They fell in line. Gen X fell in line. What makes us millennials different is when we got of age, it ain't no goddamn jobs for us. Mexicans took it all. And all the goddamn immigrants. So we ain't got the we don't our generation hasn't been bought off with jobs and fake ass MTV opportunities. Like Gen X got to live vicariously through MTV. You know what I mean? That was the Rebel channel. They got their news from Kurt Loder and shit like that. And they got to revolt through the TV screen, through Yo MTV Raps, through 106 in Park, through all that shit. And so, but they never actually did nothing to revolt outside of the LA riots. Now here comes the millennials, and then the generation behind us, Gen Z. Us millennials, we ain't really tripping on Gen Z like that. We see somebody from Gen Z, we kind of crack jokes on them, but we ain't trying to do nothing to harbor and to stunt their growth. A lot of your Gen X guys and women, they are to us. They'll see us doing great things and doing big things, doing things that they were trying to do. And instead of them giving a little aid and assistance, saying, "Hey, look, I've been through where you're going. Let me help you out." They saying, "I want the world to still look at me, so I'm gonna take your ideas. I'm gonna work with you and use some of the shit that you do, but no, I ain't gonna promote you because I gotta be the man. I gotta be the woman." That's what we're dealing with. And what we're dealing with on a level of regular ass people, internet ass people, people who are just regular day to day folks, and they may have a little bit of fame here and there. Look, I used to be on a podcast. I'm not gonna mention the name of it. Some people in here know what that podcast. Came time to share and everything. It didn't happen this year. Black people shitting on me that I fucking helped, and I helped get to a certain level, and I helped get to a certain point, and I gotta hear when they go on they different podcasts, them acting like it was all on their all themselves, and I'm sitting right here, and that's the brother fucking shit. That's Dr. Short's word, brother fuckers, brothers who fuck over other brothers, and that's a major problem right now in Black America. I'm not gonna sit here and act like it ain't. Niggas who want to be the man so much, they're not willing to share a little sunshine. They're not willing. They don't understand that I can listen to your song and my song. Like that come from all these memes. Who would you choose, Prince or Michael Jackson? Both, nigga. I can listen to fucking off the wall and Purple Rain in an hour and a half in a 90-minute time span. I can get both albums out the way and still have 22 and a half hours of the day left for me. We get this competition thing, and this shit is corny as fuck, is weird as fuck. Niggas is looking hella weird out there, not willing to show a little bit of extra. But look what happened. The Generation X person that was willing to share and to collaborate. Look what me and T did. The show that I had the other night that people travel from all across the country to go to, and I'm already starting to sell out tables now for the next shows. Tables, bottle service tables are almost sold out. And mind you, the cheap in LA, the cheapest table is 350. So we already starting to sell out tables for the next show because of what happened. All because of what happened when the generations do combine. When you have somebody who is secure within themselves, the key to all this shit, people, is to be secure within yourself. If you're not secure within yourself, you're not going to be able to collaborate with people. Or the only time you're going to collaborate with people is if you see it's a chance that you could take advantage, and get something off of it. That's all bred out of insecurity. And so if you I remember saying when I was 16, 17, when I get old, I'm not gonna be the nigga that's shitting on the people behind me. I said that when I was a teenager because I saw how much Generation X and the baby boomers shitted on millennials. And it's millennials in here. Millennials can attest to this. How we was what, about 38, 39 when we stopped hearing. Well, for me, I'm born in 1981. It wasn't until about maybe 5 years ago I stopped hearing people say, these millennials don't know this. I was 35 years old listening to niggas that was like 43 talking about some these millennials. I'm like, bitch, millennials got kids, right? Millennials have mortgages, right? Like, I had to hear these damn millennials my whole fucking life by a whole bunch of black people who didn't build shit for us millennials to inherit. How you gonna shit on millennials and you didn't build shit for us to you didn't build no corporate structure for us to go into and have jobs out of college. You created record labels, but you didn't keep them around by the time us millennials got into our 20s. You hoe ass niggas sold your record labels. Y'all got rid of the shit that y'all built, whatever little things you built in the 80s into the 90s. We didn't get to inherit none of that shit in the 2000s. We had to go into a white world while listening our whole fucking lives. These millennials this, these millennials that. But look what happened when I dealt with this with T. I had this music idea in my head 10 years ago, and I had a homeboy back then that screwed me out of it and tried to go with a bigger name comic, and that shit failed. T was like, you know what? We have an idea. She understands that, hey, different generations, have different ideas that can expand. She had her own music show without me. She did one last year at the SLS. I wasn't a part of that. She's been doing music. The show we did it in City Winery last month in Philadelphia. That was her show. I was She got her own thing with music. She ain't got to listen to a damn thing I say. She got the resources. She got everything she needs. She could have heard my idea. T could have honestly heard my idea, then gone to Cedric the Entertainer or somebody with a huge name and shared it with them and did it on a way grander scale with things that these hoe ass niggas out here do today. They'll hear an idea from somebody who's regular like me, and then don't turn around and flip it and give it to somebody with a big name, and then turn around and watch that shit fail. Because the name ain't what's gonna carry something. It's the energy and the essence of the creator who made it. That's why I'm secure within what I do and more than willing to help. Yeah, like I have documentary, I have all kind of stuff coming out. I had a very big Hollywood chic show this past Wednesday. Michelle was there, Isaiah Washington was there, Keith Washington was there. I mean, Omar Gooding came, and I'm not even gonna list the names that are coming to the next show, but I appreciate Eve for all her willingness to always co-host my rooms, my spaces. I appreciate her work and what she does. So when she came to LA, hell yeah, I gave her the VIP treatment. I wasn't gonna be on no, "Huh, this is my event. You go sit in the corner, you little, and just look at me, look at me." Hell nah. Eve walked in, I told the security, she gets access to where she wants to go. I don't know, Eve, I don't know if you with your name was on the list, but I had your name on the list down for the VIP wristband and all that shit. I treat people right because you don't do this shit. I got Major in here. Major was there. He takes pictures of. He took those photos you see the high quality ones. That's Major X here in the space. That's what it's about. Like I see our generation. Major came to me. This motherfucker is a professional of professional photographers. He's the one that designed my bigger than hip hop logo. You think I'ma not shout him out and tell you niggas to pay top dollar for his services? You better. This motherfucker's dope as fuck at what he does. I'm always gonna shout out Major. I'm always gonna shout out Eve because the only way all this shit's gonna help is if we all play our part. And as long as we got niggas that want to be have all the shine, as long as we got these people who want to be on BET, like these Jay Z ass niggas, look at me, look at me. As long as we got these that whole Jay Z puffy mindset of look at me, I'm the man, I'm the smoothest one, and I'm a shit on everybody around me so I can look good. That whole Jay Z and Puffy, that's a Generation X mentality. Generation X turned our music from love and community to hoes and clothes. That's what Generation X did. Before Generation X, our music was about loving each other. It was about community. It was the OJs. It was Frankie Beverly and Mays. It was Mickey Howard. It was that. Generation X came in talking about something. Let me buy these bottles. Let me buy these rims. Let me get all the hoes in the clothes. And that's going to make me better than you. And we're seeing that permeate throughout our leadership class. Well, there is no leadership class, lack of misleadership class, and that's across the board. If we had a leadership class, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. And that's not taking a shot or shade at any individual. We just don't have. You can't, like Leader Fuller says, you cannot have a leader when you're under suppression, when you're under domination. There's no such thing as a leader of a prison, other than the warden. The warden is the only motherfucker that run a prison. You got motherfuckers on the prison yard that can kick other prisoners' asses, but they ain't no fucking leader or nothing. And we have a generation, your Roland Martins, and you see all these people that are on TV. These motherfuckers have basically sold us out so they can stay in position. And that's some shit that I'm glad you created this space. I know that was winded, but that's what we're here to talk about. Like, nah, and I ain't trying to I ain't laming nobody. I ain't labeling nobody. There's no one person I'm talking about. This is a generational thing. This is across the board. You got some people from Gen X that are cool and all, and they're not on that shit. You got other people from Gen X who are. All I'm saying is sit back in the pocket and watch and observe yourself. It ain't about throwing mud and gossiping and bullshit. It ain't about none of that whole ass shit. Cause that's whole shit too. You niggas that want to go around, "Oh, they're talking about that." Get that weak ass shit out of here, nigga. What I notice is it don't even be the women that do that. That be the men. That's the part that reeks my soul. I don't be seeing the women tweeting, "Oh, they're da 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 da." It be you dudes, and you niggas got kids too and gray whiskers, and you niggas be the first ones to gossip. This here is a generational thing. It's something that we're seeing across the board, and sit back and watch who is who. Just pay attention to yourself. Who's from different generations? Who are they supporting? Who are they putting out there? Who are they helping? Who's doing it? And who's not doing it? And let your eyes and your ears be the judge and jury.
Absolutely. You can always soapbox in my spaces. I feel like how you attack certain topics, everybody is not going to hear the same thing the same way. And I feel like I have an audience of diverse thought. And for what it's worth, I think we can tackle these topics comprehensively if we have an open mind. So, you said a lot. I took some notes actually, because today I want to be very intentional about what I'm talking about. Because, like you said, this isn't about any one person as much as I will highlight specific instances where I've seen what I'm talking about positively. Like, so with Miss Tashina Arnold and your event this past week, that's positive. That's what I'm talking about. Professor Black Truth, I shared him in the jumbo, and his quote or his caption for the post is talking about economic strength being the backbone of Black empowerment. And that's exactly what happened. When we come together collaboratively, productively, intentionally, we can make some real moves. And that's what the dominant society or them other people, they don't want us to do that, because that makes us competitive. That means that we can take what's ours and not have to ask them for it, because it's not theirs to give. I mean, they took it, so it is theirs, but it's ours so we can take it back versus, asking for anything. So I think that when we have conversations like this, we can really unpack where the problem is and then hopefully attack it, because problems that fester, you don't want to keep a rotten apple with the rest of your apples. It will affect the other apples. And if you don't believe me, I will send you $5 on Cash App or whatever to buy you a bag of apples, and then, put one in a paper bag to make it ripen really fast or whatever. Take it out when it's all nasty, put it with the rest of your apples, and then, just do a little science experiment. And I'm really not trying to send a whole bunch of people $5. So if you really don't believe me, like if you really don't believe me, then hit me up. But I think most of y'all have actually seen that in real life, unless you don't buy apples or fruit or vegetables. And if you don't, if that is you, you probably should start to buy apples and fruit and vegetables. Okay, that's just an aside because it matters what you put in your body. Generation X, you were talking about the music, Dewan, and you said that they came in on this flashy showboating, and the music before that was more whole. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't bullshit music before. It just means that what we were resonating with is a little bit different. And I think that you touched on the fact that each generation kind of pushed the other generation out. But with Generation X, they never pushed the boomers out. We are actively dealing with boomers right now because they never got handled. And that might seem aggressive or masculine, but I think that what was necessary didn't happen. So I don't know if we can
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't
use.
happen. Gen X, when the baby boomers came around in the '80s, the great generation, Carter and Reagan. Reagan was around in the '80s, and then Bush. Even though Reagan and Bush were president, you saw you saw the baby boomers starting to really put their imprint on that, because the baby boomers, the war on drugs was, and no, it was also the war on hippies, was to really get them in line. The great generation, or the silent generation, I don't like calling them the great generation, but the silent generation got the baby boomers in line in the late '60s, early '70s, with the war on drugs and the war on hippies. What it did was it turned the white hippies into the most ultra conservative Republicans, Joe Biden, and I mean Clinton and all them motherfuckers, and it got them in line. They got in line through the Reagan era, and then when you get to '88, even though Bush is president, you for the most part have the baby boomer generation taking power. That's when you starting to have all these corporate mergers of the '80s, and during those corporate mergers, they were ousting the older people, and the younger CEOs were taking over. And those younger CEOs were all baby boomers. And then when '92 hit and Bill Clinton got in office, baby boomers locked, clad, in power. Baby boomers, and we've had baby boomers ever fucking since Clinton. That's Clinton was '92, and so the baby boomers took over from the presidency on down. They became the corporate heads. They became the corporate. Now, when we look at what's going on with the corporations, what happened in 2012 with the economic boom for the tech? You had the tech boom of the late '90s into the 2000s that put Generation X in some sort of power, but a lot of them got ousted back because that tech when that tech boom happened, then 9/11 happened that killed tech. A lot of baby boomers took right back over those positions of those new startups that came up in the late '90s. Baby boomers took back over those positions, and then now when you get to the tech boom of now, it's a lot of millennials and Gen Z that are your billionaire CEOs and billionaire top people. Just skipped right over Gen X. But what did Gen X have? Stupid ass music talking about hoes and clothes. I'm powerful because I got more money than you. Big bank, take little bank. Get all the pussy you can get. Drain every nigga for his dollar. They was too busy on that shit to take power. That was their music. That's what they were on. They were fine getting chipped off whatever they were getting chipped off. Housing was still fairly cheap when Generation X got into their 20s, and they got to their age of home buying. They could still buy homes, at a time that you can get it for somewhat of a reasonable price. You know what I mean? And they didn't take advantage because when they got the money, it was on holes and clothes, not about reinvesting. And now they trying to hold on to whatever little feeble power that they had. And I think a space like this is for us. Like, and I'm gonna get out your way. Is they say it says help or get out the way. I would change it to help or we gonna kick you out the way because what are they holding on to? They didn't. Generation X didn't build anything. They don't have any solid institutions that, to do shit to us. So I would look at if I was a Gen X listening or something like that, and you're hearing the tone of this conversation, either help and become an ally so we can do this together. And the reason why we're saying help is because when we do it together, it becomes huge. When T reached back down and helped me out with this, it turned into something huge overnight. We only had 6 days to promote that event, and we had over 300 people up in that motherfucker. That's what happens when we come together and help. The help is going to help both of us out. The help is going to help all of us out. Going back to Professor Black Truth's quote about economic empowerment, that's how we get economic empowerment when the generations come together and help one another. But if you don't help, we ain't gonna do that whole shit y'all did. We ain't gonna sit around and wait for no fucking generation X to get out the way. Fuck out of here. Don't take it. And then right behind us, Gen X is gonna take it from us. And I'm fine with that because as we get into power, we see it the way we see it. But then when that younger generation is coming and they got a point of view, you got to understand that they're going to be living longer than us. God gave them that point of view because it's going to shape the world that they're going to be living in when we long the fuck gone. So we got to be the first generation, one, we gotta take the shit. Second, we gotta be the first generation that's open to the generation behind us. We can't do the same thing to Gen Z that Gen X is trying to do with us, that the baby boomers definitely did with Gen X. We can't be the generation that's on that bullshit. We gotta be open and we gotta help Gen Z and we gotta nurture Gen Z. We gotta guide Gen Z. And when Gen Z, when them niggas get into their 40s, we gotta be when they get to say mid 40s and shit, all right, the early 40s or whatever time, we gotta be willing to be like, you know what? It's y'all show now, man. Let us go back and relax on the fruits of our labor. That's where we gotta get to.
Definitely got to get to that. You said change the title. You said, you said, I'm just saying. I think that if if you're hearing this conversation and it's rubbing you the wrong way, then it might be because you're not doing enough. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what seems like it would be more beneficial to the group. If you want everybody to pay attention to you, then I think a good way to do that would be to show how many people you're able to put on. For example, Professor Black Truth in his moment of truth, he shouts out other channels. I've paid very close attention to the fact that he's letting people know that he's not the only one. It's like, you go to a grocery store and there's the bread aisle and there's all these different types of bread, and Food Lion or Shoppers or Harris Teeter, they're not telling you which bread to buy. They're just telling you buy some bread. Like it's here. I got it. What kind of bread you want? We got it. What do you want? And then buy it from us. So, I think we've got different entities that are in that capacity, but they're not necessarily all working the same way because everybody is doing their own thing. But then you've got, some people who are like, again, I if we're supposed to be working cooperatively, then we have to show examples of what that looks like. So this is why I'm trying to, highlight specific instances of when I've seen that happen. Because how are we supposed to get empowerment when the people teaching us are afraid to be challenged? And if you came up under people who didn't want you to challenge them, for example, like I said earlier, I grew up in a household where I wasn't necessarily allowed to ask certain questions. Not because the question didn't make sense, but just because, they're not ready to give me the answer, or maybe they don't have the answer, or maybe it's just because this is the way it's done. You don't get to ask that question right now. Um, But that has turned me into a very big aged 36-year-old who still asks so many questions. Like if the point was to get me to not ask questions, then maybe answer the questions and then or help me understand why things are the way they are. And I can accept the fact that some things are just the way they are. But when I look at how things are and I look at these other groups and how they have things going on, I want us to be a competitive people. And I think that we can be more competitive against these other groups when we're doing what we're supposed to do cooperatively together. But if we're competing with each other, then not only are we fighting them people, but we're fighting each other. And that seems counterproductive. And I want us to be productive. But it's like Dewan just said, like, if we have to get you out the way, then that's an option too. But I don't want it to go there. I want it to be where the mantle is passed. Like, don't y'all have that thought? Is it a fairy tale thought to think that, you sitting back in your relaxed state in your big comfy couch or whatever in front of the fireplace and you're passing down your legacy to the next generation, and it's not on your deathbed, it's not in distress, it's not because you have to and there's no other way, but because it's there, it's theirs, and this is how it's supposed to be done. But if you never want to relax, let go, or say that new thought is necessary to get things done, then we'll never get there. I'll never be able to sit down in my big comfy couch in front of my fireplace or whatever and talk to the minis of the future about our struggle and what we've been able to give them so that they don't have to have this struggle and, remember all of what we've gone through. I just I I'm a little distraught by
It's
that, Dawn,
it's it's
because
it's a culture. It's something that's been. It's another leftover effect of white supremacy. We've been bred to not pass things down. We've been bred to not communicate with each other and talk to each other. And it be us that we can talk about white supremacy all day, but we see how it breathes into our behavior as a people. We don't look out for each other, and and then we compete with each other. Like I said, if I like the show, it took, and this is gonna take. This is gonna. Let me go to the window. I got these motherfuckers. Bishop. I use, and yes, I use the word bitch because later on they had a building next door. She ain't shit. I saved her son's life a month ago from getting shot. She said they said thank you. Anyway, but like when it comes to us as people, look, brothers, like that's why you don't hear me talk shit about women. I hear all these talk about this intersexual battle that we're having as a people, the men versus the women, feminism and the men. It's a lot of brother fucking going on too. And like Dr. Short's word and brother fuck and not pause and not one of them homo words to you weird ass niggas out there. Meaning black folks, black men fucking over other black men. And we this fight is so is old. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Like especially after this past Wednesday. I tried to work with so many other black men on the same fucking idea. And I got the damn screenshots from Facebook posts from 10 years ago to prove it that I put out there. I, you know, I had from niggas who already had money taking my shit that I was hella cool with to people who I was doing I do other work with, and we having these ideas that we can do together. But when it comes time to do these ideas together, they go off and do their own thing. And when it comes down to it, other than when I was my early on in comedy, I had some other shit. I had this comedy crew I used to be with way back in like '01. I mean, not 01, 2010, 2011. And we had like a viral YouTube video back when YouTube was new that had like over 2 million. And we was just great together. Larry was a part of that. And it was just egos and bullshit. We could never do shit together. And it's over and over, time and time and time and time and time and time again. Niggas see another dude and they see other black men as threats. And I'm here to call that behavior out, man. That's look, at the end of the day, that's whole shit. Nigga, if you a motherfucking king, nigga,
You know that there are multiple kingdoms on the planet. If you're a pharaoh, there was never just no one pharaoh of Earth. There was a pharaoh of Egypt, a pharaoh of Sudan, nigga, a king in England, another king in Scotland. Nigga, it's kingdoms all around this motherfucking globe. There ain't no shortage of kingdoms. No king, no pharaoh, no leader, nobody is threatened by somebody else's leadership unless you insecure. And we got to call that shit out. We got to have space for everybody and respect for everybody, because it took a woman to say, hey, let's partner up and do something. And I trust me, I got way more shit coming. I got to for those of you who don't know, I got my documentary premiere dropping tomorrow. It's bigger than hip hop, the Black American Music Family Tree. Go to my website, dewanb.com, and register, please. The documentary's free, but this is an event. This is a Q&A. This is something that we can come together and help me raise money for the bigger documentary for the season that we have coming up, that I'm already in process of filming. On top of this music night that I'm doing with Tashina, I'm also filming the documentary at the same time with a lot of these top name artists that we have coming through. So it's happening regardless. But I said that to say it took it took a woman, somebody else who was secure with who she was, to pull this off. And I have other men. Herb, or he's a promoter. If you're in LA, Herb, the entertainment specialist. If you follow him on his Instagram, he probably it's the only nigga with great cornrows. But his Instagram, he's at every. If you're in LA, you've been to a Herb party. Ted Dozier. He's the original creator of R&B Live, a night that was similar to what I'm doing with my night, and that night signed so many artists. It was so. I mean, from Duran Bernard to, I mean, so many artists got signed. Not Duran Bernard, he's older. James Wright, and fuck. Side note, I heard that slimy broad Christian Rock. She punched up my boy James Wright, the gay dude that was singing the Patty Pie commercial. I went to high school with him. Um, but he got signed for he got discovered vocally out of that R&B live night that they had. Anderson Paak. So many artists that you hear, Audra Day, all these a lot of people that you hear, Jenny Eichel, they all got signed out of R&B Live, an event that was something that was similar to what I have going on. So I'm teamed up right now with a cross promotion between Generation X, men, women, and we coming together and we created some dope shit. The only way this night and what I'm doing right now could have happened was with cross generations and cross genders within Black society. The only common denominator is we Black. Us coming together, each of us putting in our 25% of information of what we have, and everybody, that Generation X coming to me as a bait as a millennial and giving me the final word. I'm the executive producer of the show, and I got people with way bigger profiles than me, way more money than me, coming to me for the final word. And that's what happens and that's why it's popping, because they understand what it is. They have the resources. I understand the people of today, and we all understand that we all are in our own fucking lanes, and we doing some dope ass shit right now. And that's a more, like you were saying, Eve, about showing the positive. I'm working with Generation X right now on this promotion, and it's some dope ass shit. I have another Black woman that's Gen X who's helping me with the venues, and out of this night that we're creating, we got 10 band members that are all getting paid. Everybody touching that stage is getting paid. We got 10 band members getting paid, background singers. We got up and coming artists that are getting to showcase their voice in front of record executives, movie executives, top name law firms that are buying tables. We have like one of the top law firms in Hollywood, the top law firm that's committed to getting a section at our tables. I got this Asian technology company that's looking for musician sponsorships, that's coming in to break bread with some of these Black folks that's going to be on stage. All this economy being created, real singers. We always complain about music. We're showcasing the voices of people who don't use autotune. We're we're highlighting musicians who play real live instruments, and they're getting paid twice a month to come and showcase their skills in front of the top people. And that's all coming because two generations black man, white man, not my white man, not white man, black man, black woman. It ain't no what that was a slip, nigga. There are no white. Even the people who own this venue ain't white. They some Middle Eastern motherfuckers. But our backward so yeah, ain't no white folks in this. My bad. Eh, so, but and everybody behind the camera, people you see filming, everybody's black. My cameraman's black. I do got some Latino players on the horns, but they dope as fuck. You know, Ted is the one that booked them. We had a Latino dude on bass. He was dope, but I got to have a black bass player. No disrespect, no racism, no nothing. Just sonically, I got to have a black bass player. So for the next show, we got a nigga that's gonna be up there thumping that bass. But I don't mind sharing some of the music spots with other races because at the end of the day, we are communal people. And if those are the ones that took the job at the money that at what we're offering, then they're the ones that's gonna get the job. You know, but it's a night that we created for us by us, and it's a movement because I'm glad you had this room, me, because it really is showcasing and showing who we are as a people when we do come together, and everyone is all the better for it.
That is very real. And Empress, before I throw you the mic, because I'm definitely going to throw you the mic, I wanted to reiterate or touch on what you said, Devon, about the brother fuckers. And I guess what I really want to touch on is the fact that the black man and the black woman work. That maths. So to anybody who doesn't think that that math works, you can look at it and see that it works. And it doesn't mean that two black men can't get together and collaborate. That's not what I'm talking about. And it doesn't mean that two black women can't get together and collaborate. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is the balance that is provided when it's the two energies and how fruitful it can be when there's no ego involved. Because when there's no ego involved, then everybody gets their shine. So again, I guess back to my analogy about the grocery store, Food Lion just wants you to shop at Food Lion. They don't give a shit which bread you purchase. They just want you to buy the bread from them. And I think that if we get to that type of mindset, at least economically, then we will start to soar in ways that these other groups have already imagined, which is why we're dealing with all of these different dysfunctions. That they're planned, they're strategic, they're on purpose, and we fall for these tricks every single time. So I hate that it took Dewan 10 years to get this off the ground, but in the 10 years that he was climbing, crawling through the mud, he's been able to refine his craft and meet more people and network and really get out there in a bigger way. So, I mean, that's cool. It's like a silver lining, I guess, but if the goal is for us to be in a position where we're supposed to be, because right now, 0.5%, that's not where we're supposed to be. Anybody who's accepted the status quo, shame on you. Like, we're not supposed to have these roach existences where there's some people who've been able to avoid the raid. They they've evolved and they don't die when they get sprayed, or they don't die when they get squashed. These people who have been able to defy the odds of roach existences. I I don't accept that. I think that we are in an age where we're able to share what we know to the people who are owed it or deserving. And then if they're supposed to do it, then they'll do it. But that means that you have to know what you're doing. You have to know where you're supposed to be. And you can't be a person who said that, well, just because I can do it, I will do it. That happens on teams all the time, but maybe some of y'all have never played on a team before. You don't know that you've got a power forward who wants to take the ball up the court. And it doesn't mean that you can't do it, but isn't there a better person on the team to do it? And okay, everybody should know how to do everything, but you can't have your point guard jumping for the ball. That that math doesn't math. But again, maybe people haven't necessarily played on different teams. So I get that some of these things have to be experienced, but the way that we've been spectators all of our lives, like you would think that people can glean these things vicariously. But I look at real life and I see that it's not happening. So, no, you have to talk about it. These spaces are necessary. They are uncomfortable as fuck. I get it. But if you're here and you're able to take off your costume and get to what the fuck we're really talking about and where the problem is, I'm not saying I'm perfect. There's issues, egos, things get in the way of, getting the help that you need or want. And it's all by design. But if we're not honest with ourselves about what it is that we're dealing with, then we won't be able to deal with it. We won't do anything about it. And then we'll be 50 talking to Generation Z about the same shit, but trying to keep whatever it is that we've been able to scrape. I don't think that's our story. But okay, I'm gonna stop. Empress, peace to you, sis. Today we're having an uncomfortable conversation about the generations and the generational divide. And have you noticed that some of the really old people, like the not Generation X and not the boomers, but the ones before them, have you noticed that they kind of rock with us extra hard? Like the ones who are still around and functional and stuff, like they actually rock with us super hard. But I think that there's
Eve,
a reason
they
for that
get
too.
Eve, Eve. I had somebody that was like in the early '80s to get a reading from me earlier this week. That listens to my show all the time. I'm like, what? You older than the baby boomer? And
Look, there's something there, Dewan, and I think that I'm trying not to be mean. Sometimes when there's nothing left, you can go all out. I feel you.
that was the last generation that fought. Remember, the baby boomers never fought. That was the last generation that fought. The baby boomers didn't fight. The baby boomers inherited. They didn't fight shit. It
So
was that generation that fought. That's
there
what it
you go.
is.
They've got the remnant. That fire is just it's smoldering, or it's an ember, and all you gotta do is blow on it, and then whoosh, you've got California wildfires again. But yeah, no, them the older elders. Some of them are elders. I would absolutely give them that title and respect what they have to offer to the conversation because they did what I'm talking about. They fought to be where they are. And then they might have fucked up a little bit by giving things to their yeah, I don't know cuz that's what I'm saying needs to happen right now, right? Okay, let me stop. Empress. I'm about to go on a whole other tangent.
Good afternoon, beautiful black people. I hope that y'all can hear me. I'm walking home from the store. Peace to you, Eve. Peace, brother Dewambi. I hope y'all can hear me. So millennial versus Generation X, help or get out the way. Mm. So I want to just piggyback on something that Dewan was saying, because first it's like I get confused sometimes with like who's who. I thought baby boomers was the oldest. You just blew my mind. I don't know who they are beyond that. I had no idea. But when he put in perspective, like who specifically is like a Gen Xer, like Diddy or like Jay Z, these are the people that made 40 the new 20, right? It's like they want to stay young forever. They want to be in the second childhood and that not take on the responsibilities that take them from olders to elders. So y'all are right. Like they absolutely hate on the younger generation. I think that we are in a good place as millennials to see this terrible behavior and not model it to the young people. I see in action every day. Like, like you're saying, like we trying to pass the baton. I know I personally do that. My entire platform is dedicated to the younger generation because they're the future. And at least we see that and we're not trying to leave them. Maybe because we were out it. It's like our parents got handed everything, so we don't have the things, so we don't want to see that for them. But for whatever the reason, at least we can learn from the Gen X and just like not block the younger generation. But yeah,
Nah, I like that. I mean, we have to use the examples that were given across the board. If you grew up with a crackhead parent, then you don't need to smoke crack to know that you don't want to do that. But some of us are very hard-headed and, you got to live and maybe you turn into a crackhead in the process. I'm not saying that that's what you should do. I'm saying that that's what's happened sometimes, but it doesn't mean that that is it. It does mean that we need to slow down and pay attention to what it is that we're dealing with. And when we do that, we can start to correct these behaviors. I know that people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can revitalize, no, rejuvenate. An old dog can be rejuvenated. And what I mean by that is that if you give something purpose, then there's a reason to be there. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be there as long as something that's younger or whatever. Or let me put it to you this way: if you've got a really old car, if you take care of it, then you can have it for a very long time. Or if you have a very old car and you replace the pieces and parts that aren't working, then you can have it for a very long time. Doesn't mean that it's the same car, but it does mean that the exterior or the optics or what it's supposed to look like for the public, we need to present something strong and fortified. And right now we've been presenting this disgruntled, disjointed, discombobulated thing, because we're competing against each other, and then we're also competing against the world. And then when you don't know who's on your side, well, now you've got nobody on your side. You're just fighting and swinging, and that's just such a waste of our precious time and energy. And I'm saying that we need help, but help, what does that look like? I'm thinking people think that help looks like, you're waiting for someone to give you something, or you're waiting for someone to say something. But what I mean is, if I'm doing something, then you got to do it too. And it can't be because I told you to do it. Because if it's because I told you to do it, then it's not going to get done the right way. So I hope that makes sense. But, or let me put it to you this way: if you can't help yourself, then you can't help anybody. So
You,
we're
you,
the help.
you know what it is, Eve? See, the reason why they call the generation that's older than the baby boomers, they call them the silent generation because they got a lot done without talk. You know what I mean? There was a lot. You know what I mean? When World War II hit, they they went, they got drafted, they fought, when they got their jobs. I mean, they created they were, that's when the Ford factory shut down, stopped making cars, started making military jets. It was like everybody just did what needed to get done without running their mouth, which afforded them to raise a soft generation called the baby boomers. The reason why there was a baby boom was because of the amount of money that the silent generation and the greatest generation um, put in basically the children of Roosevelt. That generation, what they put in, that's the generation that built America to have the biggest middle class in world history. Was that World War II generation? And so what that led to was two very soft generations. Generate the baby boomers, they didn't do shit either. They're the ones who see baby boomers are the ones that started the whole collagen in the lips. They started the whole putting your neck down. Remember when we was kids? Old people looked old. The Jeffersons, them niggas, they was in their fucking 40s. They was my age. Like nigga, George Jefferson was my age on that show. Like, goddamn. But that generation did not mind. Look at them, their fucking age. When you got to the baby boomers, that's when everybody started to have to look, be young again, be youthful, be vibrant. And then Generation X took it to a whole motherfucking level with it. Went from going youthful to now just flat out being teenagers. Like one reason why I don't go to the Drew League much, I love basketball, but I backed away from that environment, is because it's a perpetual teen environment. You still got niggas walking around in their 50s talking about what they was doing in the league and when they hooped at Magic Johnson Park and back in '94. And it's just this thing of not we just haven't been growing up. And that's why it's on us. They're not gonna change. We're putting this out there because there are people from that generation who aren't like that. But overall, they are who they are. What FBA Empress just said, we got to make sure that we're the generation that's different. We got to embrace where we're going. You know what I mean? I got gray hairs in my chinny chin at only 42. I ain't about to put no dye in here. Nigga, I'm good. There, yes, I got gray hair at 42. Yes, I do. Right, it's on my chinny chin, and it stays there because I thank God for me getting to 42 years old. I ain't trying to look like no nigga that's in his 30s. I don't want to be in my goddamn 30s. That shit. I definitely don't want to be in my 20s. That shit's horrible. You don't control shit in your 20s. Yeah, you think you know something, you don't know a goddamn thing. I don't want that. So I'm the generation that's like, you know what? Like what FBA Empress just said, reach back, reach back. You were there, Eve. That I don't know if you were there when that young brother got there and sang the blues. He was only in his early 20s, and I made sure to pull him to the side and give him extra attention and give him extra love. Because I saw a young black man in his early 20s singing our traditional music. You better believe he about to get some extra love from me and some extra attention and a conversation. Gave me my number, man. Call me anytime. I see somebody your age that's interested in preserving our culture. It's my duty to look out for you. It's now my duty to
Man,
make
be
sure that
who
you're
you say
good.
you are. Be who the fuck you say you are.
Yeah,
Because it's cool if you aren't something else. Like if you say you're something, then be that. Like you show me all the time, that music matters to you, and you show it with your actions. And people can say that they've been listening to music and they know all this stuff about music and stuff, but if it matters to you, then that's where you're going to be spending your resources. You're going to be trying to get people to learn about it. You're going to be involved in it. And that I've seen that from you time and time again with regards to our story, our music. That's our story. It's just in a different language. Like we're so fluent in all these languages, you guys, but if we are fighting each other, we're not going to be able to pass it down to the next generation. It's going to get lost. We focus. That's my fault cuz I guess I just interrupted your train of thought. So that's me being unfocused, but I needed people to know that you got to be who you say you are. Cuz if you're not, you're going to run into issues with this generational divide because people are going to be looking at you as an example. And then where is it? Where is the example?
yeah, you're right about that because those of you who've heard my car reading shows, I've been on this since last year. I said this year, 2023, is a 7 year, 7 of hearts, exposure, exposure. I said it back in December. You're going to start seeing who is who because now we're at a time of substance. This is a cause and effect relationship with everything. This fucked up economy we're in, this extreme racism we're dealing with as a people coming to this country from the Ukraine, taking our resources. There's an effect. The effect of that is okay. Now we got everything is getting reassessed. Who is who? What is what? We were raised to be Democrats and to accept immigration. Now I'm finding out that that was the wrong thing to do. So, do these people think that we're just going to reassess our relationship with the Democratic Party? Like by force, by nature, we're being forced to reassess our relationship with everybody, ourselves. You think we just going to limit looking at uh, tethers? You think it's just going to stop there? No. If the tether, I was saying this on the phone. I was on the phone with Isaiah earlier. He was calling me about Isaiah Washington. He was calling me about the night and the night that when he came out to the show. But I was talking about that with him. I was just like, when it comes to this whole tether thing, I love and I believe in calling out tethers. I'm tired of that shit. Every motherfucker I know out here in LA named Ubuntu, not everyone, but a fair amount of Ubuntus I know out here be on some shady shit. So I'm 1,000% down with calling out tethers. So this ain't to go at anybody in particular that calls out tethers. Keep calling out tethers. But at the same time, when these tethers came, they learned how to treat us based on how we treat each other. We got to tell the whole truth if we're going to solve the problem. Tethers learned, let me say that one more time. Tethers learned how to treat Black Americans based on the way Black Americans treat Black Americans. We be lowering ourselves and not thinking what we produce is good enough. I was trying to talk about hip hop being a child of the blues 10, 15 years ago. Niggas didn't want to hear that. When I was in my 20s, all I had to deal with was people saying, Dewan, you old. Dewan, you on that old shit. All throughout my teens and 20s, that was like the running joke. Because while everybody else was listening to DMX, I was listening to Earth, Wind& and Fire. While everybody else was listening to Tupac. And let me tell you another thing. I ain't the biggest Tupac fan. A lot of niggas get weirded out when I say I don't really like Tupac or Biggie. Because I saw the effect that those two had on my community. And I'm not a fan of neither one of them niggas, honestly. And I appreciate Tupac for what he did, his family. He's a true G for what he did saving that brother in Atlanta. He was a true Gemini. He's a paradox. He was a both and. He was a revolutionary and he was a gangster. Unfortunately, my community gravitated towards the gangster side of Tupac, which was a smaller part of his career than the non-gangster side. But we as a community, we did gravitate towards that. Yes, what the fuck we did. And I cannot blame all media for that. We still had choices in 96. In 96, you could have chose to either buy Life or Death or Machiavelli, or you could have bought uh, D'Angelo's Brown Sugar. We still had options. 96, Michael Jackson's History dropped in 96. Tony Braxton dropped an album in 96. You still had that's when Maxwell came out in 96. That's what I was buying in 96. Hey, I don't know about you niggas, but while most of these niggas was on gangsta this, gangsta that, I was buying Erica Badu in 97. I bought on and on. That's my shit. You know what I mean? When Common dropped, while the rest of these niggas was listening to Jay-Z talk about hoes and clothes, I was listening to Common. That's what I was fucking with. I was fucking with that early Kanye, the first three albums Kanye. We still had choices. Let's not sit here and act like we didn't have choices. We still had choices. You could either bought Nelly or you could have bought Bilal. Still black music. But so we still had choices. So these people came into an environment. We was on some bullshit and they started. We was on. Look at Comic View. Look at In Living Color. Go back and watch In Living Color. In Living Color was nothing but jokes, niggas shitting on niggas. And I'm not. I love the show. It was funny back then. I'm just going back and talking about the environment. I'm not saying you shouldn't like it or you shouldn't reminisce on it. But In Living Color was just niggas talking about niggas in the worst fucking way. Go back and listen to Comic View, a Def Comedy Jam. As a comedian, speaking to this generational divide, my generation coming up, it's hard for us to get on stage because we still got these fucking Generation X bum ass Def Jam comics still talking about black people do this, white people do that. And every joke that black people do, we lose. Every joke white people do, they win. Just go back and watch Def Comedy Jam. Def Comedy Jam was just a whole bunch of jokes about what black people do wrong. So immigrants came into that environment. These tethers came into that environment. They came into the environments where niggas in the same city didn't even get along because they was on the wrong street or lived in the wrong neighborhood. And they came in into that, and then they brought their cultural perspective to an already divided people, an extremely divided people. We can't go around acting like we was some innocent damsels in distress. Hell no, we played a major role in showing these other people how to treat us. That's why we got to be the first generation that stopped that shit.
That's real. The first generation to stop it. Not the first generation, but we got to bring it back. I think that some of these things skipped over generations, and that I guess that's what Empress was talking about earlier. Empress, I know your hand is probably tired. You can put that thing down if you like. Um, not sure what you wanted to respond to, but the mic, you can have the mic again if you'd like it.
Oh, thanks. It was cool. I'm literally just got in the house. It was perfect timing. Thank you guys. I was just actually going to add on to the point that you made earlier about what help looks like. I can tell you what it does not look like, and it doesn't look like blocking. Um, I don't know which generation it is. I don't know if it's the boomers or the Gen Xers or whoever it is, like these politicians talking to us crazy. You know what I mean? Like we don't know what it is we're doing. And that's insulting and it's not helpful at all. Like you shouldn't block us. And that's on all fours, just like Dewan was saying about just like with like the music and everything that we're doing. we're taking on the responsibility of elders, and hopefully we'll become elders, right? By taking our culture and actually teaching it to the younger, starting from like the history. Like we're doing the jobs of generations that should have done before us, and we have to do it now because otherwise it'll be just like hip hop. People are going to come in and take all of our stuff and try to sell it back to us and tell us we didn't make it, we didn't, create it. But that's because the whoever, I guess it's Generation X, and probably the boomers too, kind of let stuff go under the rug, and now we see the effects of that. So I'm just gonna say, like, help is just absolutely not blocking. If you can't actively help, you shouldn't actively be trying to block anything that we're trying to do. That's not helpful at all.
Real talk. Speaking of not blocking, while I've shared a bunch of different things in the jumbo, I have shared again in the jumbo, dwanb.com, because you should try to support. I mean, if you're in this room, you're already supporting, but you could do more. You could. You can do it. Okay, I try not to count people's pockets. I really don't like to do it. I don't like when people do it to me, but I'm just saying that some of these things that we say we want, if you want it, you know how to get it. Anything else that you want, you get. So, I don't that excuse, that reason, it doesn't resonate with me. That math doesn't math. So, when people say that we need certain things, when there's people doing certain things to provide the necessary service that people are asking for, you have to show that you mean it with your resources. That is how we get ahead. Everybody gets to get ahead because we keep saying that all of these things are necessary. And maybe you don't like it from one place, but you can get it from another place, and it's all under the same umbrella. So, um, you could get it all. You could do all of it. See which one you like. Whatever. Just dewanb.com. That's in the jumbo. I've also shared some other things in the jumbo because I think that things that we're doing is what I'm talking about. FBA Sunday School and different merch. America needs a flea bath. People don't like that. They got my channel stricken on YouTube. I'm a little irritated by that. They said it was medical misinformation, but if you got fleas, you need a flea bath. That math. So screw you for telling me that that is medical misinformation. It's not. It's not medical misinformation. But I get it. The whole country can't get dipped into a bath. That is not misinformation either. You're just misunderstanding on purpose. So, again, screw you, YouTube, for striking my channel for saying that. And screw you if you're about to strike my channel again, because I'm going to post this there. And I guess we'll see what happens. If you missed that space, it is on Plex, which is a new Black Media Archive platform for different things that have been taken off of YouTube. So follow the new Black Media Archive. They're in the room. They got the black fist up. Okay, that was a commercial of sorts. Joe, I see your hands up. Before I get to you, because there's a couple different things I wanted to touch on this afternoon. I have time. I've been blessed with so much extra time, but I'm not going to take too much of your time because Empress has a space later, and I think Devon might have a space
Yeah,
later as well.
I'm gonna jump in Empress space for a while. Then I'm gonna have my own around maybe 3 or 4.
There you go.
All
So
right.
this afternoon is jam-packed with productive conversations that I think that you should pay attention to, or at least be aware of, so that you can go back and check it out later. But Millennials versus Generation X, I think that when we're talking about history and what we've seen in the past, different revolutionaries, the ages of these people, 18 to 40, maybe. And then from there, between 40 and 60, you're in an advisory role, or at least you should be, because you've garnered that much life experience to be able to pass on what you've done. But if you haven't done anything, or if it took you that long to do something, then I get why you wouldn't want to get out of the way. But wouldn't it be easier to just help? And when I say help, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to give everything away. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that you're supposed to show that it matters to you. If Dewan's got, a documentary about it's bigger than hip hop, so it's not just this music aspect, it's actually more comprehensive than that, then wouldn't you want him to have all of the resources he needs to show that we can do this? Because again, these other groups, they're not starting at the same starting point. No, they have resources already. So the playing field is not the same. And I think that if people are saying that how we're supposed to win means that everybody has to struggle to win, then we're not going to win, because the people at the end of the day, or at the end of the win, it's not going to be enough of us to do anything about it. I think we're going to go away. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm saying that our chain, we don't need a chain, or maybe I'm saying that people think that we don't need a chain. If we're a group, then we're a chain, aren't we? Aren't we all the same chain? At least that's how everybody else is acting towards us. So, Joe, the generations are supposed to connect, aren't they? And then if they don't connect, what do you do? Do you just let the chain just be disconnected, or do you solidify the links that are broken or damaged, and then now you've got a strong chain?
Hey, peace, E. That was pretty deep. Let me just show my respects to the room first. First and foremost, Dwan B taking shots at me being positive. I fuck with you. FBA Empress. I see my sister Lioness. I see Beat Zilla. I see Willie. I see Star. I see War Talks. I see Chris. I see Miss McFly. I see everybody in here. Not everybody, but enough of us. I want to say this right here. You was touching on something about the history and the chain link, right? And I wanted to come to mind about what has been, popping up to me in my conscience, and it's been prevalent about the reclassifications that have been happening over the years. Um, they're doing the same thing that they've done to our ancestors, that they done to the ancestors before them, that they done to the ancestors before them, that done to the ancestors before them. This time we caught on. Let me repeat.
Actually, before you repeat, Joe, hell yeah, you caught the loop. That is that's magic that we can do. We can catch the loop, and if you catch the loop, man, we can correct it. That is solidifying the chain. That's fixing the link. Like, I'm sorry, Joe, I had no clue where you was about to go with this, but I had this on my conscience to talk to y'all about the 26,000 year precision of the equinoxes. And not really, I'm not trying to plebiscite, and I'm not trying to talk to y'all about the stars. I'm just trying to say that we are a people who've been here for a long time. And because of that, you can only pick up on certain patterns if you've been here for that long. And what we're dealing with right now, this generational divide, this is a very little pattern. But if you don't pay attention to it, then you're gonna get sucked into that loop you were just talking about. So thank you for touching on that, because it matters that we already know this stuff. But if you don't know that you know this stuff, then you're never going to tap into it. It's never going to be a thought that you've ever had. You're just going to succumb to the loop. And everybody else or other people are going to be off the hamster wheel looking at you, trying to figure out why you don't know that you're on a hamster wheel. Okay, I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
It's all good. It's all good. Um, but I'm gonna be brief because I want to make sure that when I speak, my words carry weight. So I try not to talk on spaces too much. I want to make sure that the energy's in it and it's coming out. Boom. So the next thing I want to touch base on, right, real quickly, because when we say this connection, this changing in our history, we gotta understand that there's a call on upon us, ancestral wise, bloodline wise, because that's the life force that thrives through us all. our connection to this soil and this soil only. We're remembering, we're beginning to pull up the memory of our ancestors. We're continuing to push the energy of the ancestors that was erased. We're resurrecting, we're calling up names, we're bringing that energy back. You know what I'm saying? And what happens at this point, you know, our main goal is to, pass this on collectively in a way that's not harsh. A lot of people ain't gonna make it. I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all. A lot of our folks that are Black American, full blooded, ain't gonna make it in this process because they don't know how to delineate. It's gonna hurt them. Delineation hurts some people. We just, oh my bad. We gotta, my bad, y'all. We got this loving heart. You know what I'm saying? We got this loving and kind heart, and we're all caring and all kind, and we want to help everybody. Some of our people have been programmed to believe that it's only up to them to help the world, and they think that it's just a righteous deed that they must sacrifice themselves for the world, and God will judge them one day when they die, shit like that, and that's how we've been getting put behind the line further and further and further. But now we've grabbed onto this chain, y'all. We gatekeep. We gatekeeping the culture. I know it seems like it might be small because when we go outside, a lot of people don't know what the hell going on. But we still got to live by example. We stand out. Um, anyway, I ain't gonna get into a plebiscite myself, but I just wanted to touch base on that, man. Continue
Actually,
to
Joe,
remember.
before you go,
Yeah.
are you Generation X or are you a millennial?
I'm a millennial. I was born in '83, so I'll be a millennial, right?
Look, if there's any Generation
Yes,
X
sir.
out there,
Okay.
this is not, we're not attacking you as much as I think that this is an
A
olive branch
conversation to
sort.
get it all on the we putting everything on the table. That's all we're
Yeah,
doing, and it's out of love. Like and it's really out of love because we would love to see it all. We'd rather see it come together. That's why you put the word help first. But I
that's
want to say something
facts.
real quick
That's
about
facts.
the.
And
I want
Joe
to say something real.
definitely does. I think Joe speaks with his actions. You got to be a person who does, you got to be who you say you are. Like, whoever you say you are, that's who you
Eve,
have to be.
real quick, I want to touch on something that you said earlier about the chain link and about the 26,000 year cycle and everything. Here's another thing I want to say about this whole generational thing. I, for me, I don't know how y'all feel, but that ain't plebiscite babbling when we talk about our astrological connection because we're in a universe. That's where we are. Generation X and and before they pushed the envelope by connecting us our ancestral connections because generations before that weren't trying to hear nothing about ancestral connections. Our millennial, what we're doing to push it forward is we're not only talking about ancestral connections, we're talking about astrological connections. And I'm not about sitting here and letting no white boys own that space either. Fuck that shit. The United States flag is red, white, and blue after our mother star series. Nigga, that's our goddamn story. And so I'm not gonna sit here and be shamed by drawing in that connection because it makes certain people uncomfortable. And we are in an uncomfortable position as a people. And we got to tell our whole fucking story. You know what I mean? I remember how uncomfortable I was when I first started telling people on Twitter that I read cards. That first year I told them, I was like, man, I know how niggas think. That first year it was extremely scary to put out there that I'm a card reader. But then my spirit said, nigga, you got to do it anyway. And the response I've gotten has been like overwhelmingly like 99% positive. Like you would never know so many people who are at least interested in stuff like that. And I think a lot of that has to do is because us as millennials, Gen Z behind us, and like you said earlier, Eve, that way older generation, the ones in their 80s and up, they really be into that kind of stuff. It's really that baby boom generation and that Gen X that be making us feel like, oh, that's some googly got, that's this, that's that. Like, no, that's our story too. You know what I mean? And when I have some of the top financial firms in LA coming to me to get a card reading on who if they should work for somebody or not, I ain't gonna sit here and let somebody tell me that that's some bullshit. When I got the people who really, really get down out here understanding this science and using it to their advantage on levels that none of us could understand because we ain't been there before. So we can, as millennials, I'm just seeing the trends. I pay attention to trends. Millennials are hella into spirituality. Millennials are hella into astrology. Now the Gen X was into astrology, but it was kind of a little story. Then they went back to and did what they did. Millennials, we into live music. We into wine. That's another thing. I'm here in California. Millennials, we some wine drinking motherfuckers out here, all up through Napa and through the Central Valley region. You see my snobby ass on IG. Yes, that's me. Me and my wife is gonna be in wine country sometime next week, drinking some Pinot Noir with my fucking pinky in the air. Nigga, that's what the fuck we do. We different. We into spirituality. We into wine. We into reading cards. We into that, and we can no longer feel shamed by them other generations for being into that.
That's facts. That's facts. Joe, before you go, are you still here, Joe? Is Joe still on stage?
Hold on,
He's
hold on,
still
hold
up
on. I'll
there.
be right back, bro. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm still here. Hold on. Yeah, hello, hello.
Joe, you still there?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. I wanted you to
Oh,
go ahead and finish out your thought before you went out.
oh, okay, yeah. So, let me walk away from these people. What I was gonna just just say, and a reminder for us, um, because it's been coming to me. Like I said, it's been continuing to come to me, and I sit back and I think about from like the 1500s, like what kind of maneuver did these people play? And it's the same thing that they're playing on us today. They started with their customs. They started with things that they acclimated to themselves, and they gave it to somebody else, or they'll allow somebody else to come in and um, someone that'll sell us out and be a voice to allow others to come in and appropriate themselves to our culture. It's been happening. It's still happening, and it's happening today. But we're pushing back, man. Let's continue to push back. Don't give up your hope or what I mean. Everybody's watching. You know what I'm saying? Um, talk to who you can. I pissed a few people off yesterday, man. They was on that Pan African shit, full blooded Black American on that Pan African shit. I said, no, they ain't gonna fly. They ain't gonna fly, fam. But anyway, I got to cut up out of here, man. I love y'all, man. Y'all hold it down. Hey, B Zilla, my bad. I ain't forget about you, bro. I see you down there. Hey, but anyway, appreciate you, E, for doing what you're doing, and everybody else for the support. Um, y'all stay blessed, man. Stand on lineage, man. Do your lineage, do your genealogy, man. Peace.
That's what's up, Joe. Thank you for coming through and speaking those words. And actually, you brought me to another thought that I had on this topic. Um, when you've got people who've done something that you haven't done, then, you know, there should be some sort of respect. So let me bring you back to, my childhood and being that kid who had that written on the report cards and progress reports, insubordination or whatever challenges authority, that's always been me. But I think that it's because when you tell a child that you have to respect people because they're older and not really have a portfolio or a work of what you've done that merits the respect that they're saying that they're owed, that math starts to get a little confusing. So, to the point of millennial versus Generation X, there are people who've done more than what we've been able to do. But I start to think about that special Negro or, the Michael Jordans or the Oprahs or the whoever you want it to be because they're out there. I'm not saying that they're not out there. I think that we are very special people. And even under pressure, you know, diamonds can happen at different times. So, when we're looking at people who are supposed to be teaching us how to get there, what does that look like? And then, if the people who are older than us are not teaching us how to get there, well, then what are you there for? Except for just to be a trinket of sorts. That is confusing to me. But I think that when we're having conversations like this, I'm exposed to the idea that when we're being led, it's not necessarily about the person, it is about the message. It goes back to the code. It goes back to being able to speak these things and not necessarily have to use your words. It can be in the sound, it can be in the music. But then are we discerning enough to differentiate the different sounds? Some of y'all don't know when the music is synthesized. Some of y'all don't know when it's a real string instrument or if it's on a machine. And I think that that matters. But it doesn't mean that we're a lost people. It just means that there's some more work that needs to be done. But if you don't think that there's more work that needs to be done, then what are we doing? It seems like it would be easier to just move you out the way. Go ahead, Dwan. I saw you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna actually my Twitter space I do later on. I'm gonna do it with music. I'm not worried about YouTube, so I'm gonna do it with music to really talk about that. You know, 'cause a lot of people don't know the difference between the synthesized and the natural sound. And they with the it while at the same time, everybody feels the difference. We all feel the difference, but a lot of people don't know the difference when they hear it. But once you just point it out to them and they hear it and they see it, they now understand what they've been feeling the whole time. And I thought about that because I was this past last night, a couple nights ago, I went to go see Jacques, that young R&B kid that was saying that he's the king of R&B a couple years ago. I met him, talked to him, met his family backstage. Good, he comes from good stock. Had a good family. I like his energy. He performs. He's a good performer. I was impressed and surprised by his performance. But as I was listening, he was performing this new thing where they have live perform tracks, meaning instead of bringing a band to the performance, they set up all these visuals and and the DJ plays a live track of the song. So it has the sound of a live band, but it still doesn't have the feeling of a live band because at the end of the day, you still don't have those energies in the room with you. So I was thinking to myself as I was watching him perform, and I was like, well, at some point, he's gonna have to figure it out and get with a live band and put a live thing in the sound because I don't think he's gonna be able to people and not just him, just people overall with that fake track. What are you gonna do 15 years, 20 years after your last hit? If at some point people stop hearing music, they gotta feel it. You notice a lot of those people from the '90s and the 2000s who went number one, they're having to tour on these big tours with seven niggas on stage together from the '90s because the way that the ingredients that went into the production, that plastic sound, even though it sounded good for the time and it sold for the time, it doesn't give me a reason to keep coming back. The main '90s artists and 2000 artists that tour on their own and they have their own thing going on, their own following, they generally have a live band with them. They all have a live band with them. And most of the people who tour the biggest now are the people who still performed with the live band back then. They avoided the temptation of going through that plastic sounds. Your Erica Badu, your Jill Scotts, they have bigger tours than all of the people from that generation outside of Beyonce. And people who sold way more albums than them at the time, they're now having to team up to tour and do what Erica Badu and Jill Scott are doing and Maxwell are doing on their own because you're dealing with people who maintain the live sound. And so I said all that to say, we as a people, even though we may not know it in our minds, we know in our spirits when we listen and the importance of live sound. Live sound is the reason why Frankie Beverly and Maze can still tour 20 years after Frankie Beverly lost his voice. You know what I mean? It's a thing that brings us together, but I think so many of us are unconscious of that. And my documentary, my purpose really is to bring consciousness to that. Let's just wake up. We know these things intrinsically, but sometimes people just need a notion. Oftentimes we're doing what people tell us to do. We're just doing what we heard from the generation before us. So somebody like him in his production is probably just doing what that's just the sound that he's used to, familiar with. That's the sound that his production team, his management said that they want to go with. But if I had an ear to him and any other young artist, it's like, okay, now if you want longevity, if you want your sound to last, be longer than you got to put that soul and that spirit and that live feeling and that live love into it. And that's something that I'm going to go through extensively tomorrow for my documentary live stream premiere. And I really break down a lot of the science behind it in the documentary. Mind you, I talk about these Twitter spaces, but I give you niggas 10% of what I understand because niggas is listening. I understand that. So for the rest of it, you got to get that documentary to really get into what's going on in my head when it comes to musically. So that's what we're doing here. And then again, I'm still filming. I'm filming. I'm actively filming the documentary now. I'm not waiting on anything. But your donations to my GoFundMe and your attendance to my premiere is what's helping me move forward and get even more extensive. Because again, I'm not trying to have you niggas say trust me because I'm me. I want to show you the difference, and I'm like, for the documentary series, I'm going to need to pay for music licensing and things like that, and all that's going to come with you guys' help. So I appreciate y'all for that. And but I will be doing a music space later on when I do my space to really point that out, Eve.
That's real. And I think that if it matters to you, then you will show that it matters to you. And so far, the people who, it doesn't take a lot of people, and neither do revolutions. That doesn't take a lot of people either. It just takes a select group of focused individuals who are who they say they are. And even if you're in a ninja esque sort of function where you have to be something else, I think that facade or that costume that you're putting on for the greater good still needs to math. That math has to math as well. So when people look at you as an example, well, should we look past you and you're not the example? Or if you are the example, then you have to start doing these things that you're saying that you're doing. I don't know. I'm trying not to plebiscite. Dewan, you were talking about the stars. When I'm talking about, when I say plebiscite with the stars, what I mean specifically is that I don't know enough about the science or the why or the names. What I know, a lot of times, I've felt it and then I've been confirmed with different research that I've done. So, this 26,000 year cycle, that makes sense to me with regards to our story because you would have had to been around for a few 26,000 years to have even been able to recognize that something is going on. And then really if you think about it, how many thousands of years did you exist before you even looked up and said, oh shit, something's going on? So I know that our story is long and it's deep, and people don't care to pay attention to it. But because it's long and deep like that, these little loops that we get stuck in, we can fix it real easy. However, if you don't think that these little things matter, then when people are telling you that you're on a loop, you're not going to want to get off the loop. And then everybody else looks crazy to you because they're not doing it the way that you say it needs to be done. But I think there's different ways to do a few different things. I mean, even with tying your shoe, you don't have to tie your shoe the same way as long as it keeps your shoe on your foot. I mean, I'm sure that there's a better way and a not great way, but why are you worried about somebody else's shoe as long as the shoe doesn't come off the foot? I think that some of these things are a control thing, but now I'm brought to like the boule, and some of them are Generation X, and some of them are the boomers, and it's like this weird amalgamation of people who just don't want to help the people under them do what needs to be done because they're finally where they want to be. And I mean, I get that. But if that's where you are, then you can say that. And then at least people will know that that's what's going on. And then we can move accordingly. But if you're saying that you're not that, then you would have to show something else. I think that Dr. Short saying brother fucker makes people angry because it acknowledges the fact that, you know, Dewan is my brother. But if he starts doing some fucked up shit, well, now he's a brother fucker. And it's both and. So we can do all of these different things and help or harm. It's it's both. But if we want us to advance all together, then we have to stop doing them both and be very specific about what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So shout out to Empress for her channel being, specifically related to passing on information, and to other people who have channels who are passing on information, and it's not about you. Because if you're at your big age that you're on Twitter participating in these conversations, it's not about you anymore. And you might not have kids. Dewan doesn't have kids, but it's not about him anymore. His legacy will be what he's done for us, really. And other people like him, their legacy is what they're doing for us. And maybe you don't want to own that, but if there's people out here doing things that aren't helping them specifically, who is it for? Because it's not for Jenny and Brad. I mean, the people who want it to be for Jenny and Brad, they're very loud about their separation from us. So, I think that it's very easy to claim when people are doing something for us. But y'all niggas is scared of power. And at the end of the day, that's where the generational divide is. People are afraid of power because when certain people get power, does it mean that you're not powerful anymore? That's what Dewan was talking about earlier. There's different kings. The king of Scotland and the king of wherever the fuck. I'm sorry, Dewan. I don't mean to
That's
like
true. No, that's no. You're 100%. I was like, look, everybody is a king everywhere. Like these niggas look so goddamn stupid. These people that think that way and see things that way. It's like everywhere you look, it's a king. It's kings right now. It's presidents everywhere. You see what's his name? Biden. Biden old ass got to hop around the world every fucking day to go visit other kings, to go visit other kingdoms. And you got these niggas trying to be the king of niggas. And what the fuck good is being the king of niggas anyway? You can't do shit. You know what I mean? You still got to go to a white bank for what you want. You still got to, like, who the fuck you want? That's me. I look at, I, you know what helped me stop getting, help me not be bitter and help me not be mad or angry at this behavior anyway. Because I'm the kind of person, I don't like corny shit. And that shit corny as hell. At the end of the day, nigga, it's like, bruh, you talking about being the king of the sandbox. You fucking serious? Like, that's just funny to me. It makes me not be angry, it makes me not be bitter, and it makes me all stay focused on when I see somebody younger than me that's doing some dope shit. Let's go to work together, man. 'Cause that's some dope shit. That's not corny. Corny is over here trying to be the king of the sandbox, and you don't even control the yard, nigga. You control the sandbox. What kind of shit is that? And you don't even control that. You just think you do. And so it's just one of those things where we just got to stop that corny shit. We are not a corny people. Black one staple of Black America is we ain't corny. But trying to be the king of niggas, it's like corny ass behavior and is weak as fuck. It's insecure. And it's something that we can't tolerate as a people. And if we listening to somebody, there's certain people I watch, I still watch. When I see them saying, "Oh, yeah, I don't fuck with this person," you shouldn't fuck with them too. I'm looking at it like, okay, I'm still listening. I'm still watching your show because you got some dope ass information. Man, if you don't sit your corny ass down telling me not to watch somebody else, fuck out of here. Watch whatever the hell I want to watch. Don't ever listen to no black person tell you who to watch and who not to watch. That's some corny ass shit right there, real weak. And because at the end of the day, we all have a spirit. You have a spirit, I have a spirit. And that spirit is going, if something ain't right, if something that we hear don't really make sense to us, It's gonna be something in your gut that's gonna be like, even if it comes from somebody you really like. You know what I mean? Sometimes people you really like are gonna say things that's gonna make you be like, that's what the fuck you need to be listening to. Because like I always say, there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages. So you ain't gonna get perfection from nobody. It's gonna be people you totally do not fuck with that will say something from time to time that you totally do fuck with and agree with, and you can apply it to your life, and it's gonna make your life better. And it's people who you rock with real heavy, who they're gonna say some shit that's gonna make you be like, man, get the fuck out of here. That's what you need to listen to. Listen to whatever it is in your spirit that's make you go, you don't listen to no nigga tell you who the fuck to listen to or not to listen. That's corny as hell. And anybody that gets offended at me saying that, nigga, I don't care. I just don't. Like, what you gonna do? Say, don't listen to him. He reads cards and he. What you gonna do? Say that? Well, anybody who listen to you say that, fuck them too. That's how I look at it.
That's 1,000,000,000% accurate. Um, if a person's telling you what to do, I think that it should be led with what they're doing. Be who you say you are. Who am I? I'm just Eve, right? I try not to present myself as an authority on things as much as I have thoughts on things, right? So from there, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt or not. I don't know how you chase your liquor or preface your liquor, whatever. I do know that my thoughts leave a taste in some people's mouths, and whether they like it or not, it is what it is. But my thoughts today on millennial versus Generation X, I'm a millennial, and I find that I'm in competition a lot of times with the people right up from where I'm at. You know, people who are peers, but not really people who've been able to do things that I've not been able to do yet, but, you know, trying to get there. And then from there, how does it look? What does the help look like? And I think that if you're real, then people rock with you. So however long it takes, like Dewan was talking about earlier, it took 10 years for him to get to where he's at right now. Like, that's rough. That that's not fair. Other people are
Oh, it
starting
took.
10
Oh
years.
no, Eve. It took longer than that because there was a 3 year period before that. That the black comedy clubs here in LA was telling me to not talk about black consciousness stuff. People don't want to hear that. Just go back and talk about the fluff and huff and puff. It was a black gatekeeper that I dealt with before that. The 10 year part started when my own friend fucked me over. Before that, it was these Hollywood niggas. You know, so yeah, yeah. But again, got brother fucked the whole way up. But hey, it's like it always it makes you develop a certain level of fucking to where I can say shit like I'm saying right now. And I'm gonna get back. I didn't
Be
mean to cut you off,
quiet.
but I'm gonna say it one more time, just in case people didn't hear me earlier. If if somebody is telling you who to listen to and who not to listen to, you need to pay very, very, very close attention to them. Because what is their ultimate goal? That is a high level of insecurity, and we as all people, as us, we need to trust ourselves, not other niggas. Trust your fucking self. Don't trust Dewan Brown. Don't trust no. Trust yourself. Your instinctual gut is gonna tell you whether something's some bullshit or not. Listen to that, not niggas. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you good. The minis are doing the most in the background. I do apologize for that interruption of sorts. It's for them, right? The whole reason that I'm in here squawking and doing the most is because I think that it's not about me anymore. But if I don't have the adequate resources to pass down what it is that I know, are we a people who are too broke for loyalty? Like, that's a thought that I had for a whole other space, but it just kind of brought me to it today, and I'm not gonna go into it too much tonight because Empress has a space at 4:30 that y'all should definitely check out. But I think that when we're telling people that they have to do certain things or they have to go through something for a certain period of time, when it is available right now, and you just feel like they haven't gone through enough to be able to appreciate it or do the right thing with it, well, now we've got gatekeepers that don't need to be gatekeeping. But if you're paying attention to the people who are gatekeeping, well, you've allowed yourself to be gatekept. So I guess it's similar to voting. If you've removed yourself from the situation, well, you're not responsible, not really, for what's going on in that arena. You need to be aware of what's going on, but that's not you. You didn't do that. You did something else. And when enough of us start doing something else, well, they will pay attention to us. So really all of what I'm talking about, it making our change stronger, connecting the generational divide, it I think it matters because all of the problems that we're dealing with are related. It's connected. But if we don't deal with these damages in the links, then we're already lost. And I don't think we're lost. I just think that we need to be reminded that some of these things, it's a loop. Get out the loop, and now we're on to something else. Um, J.G. Burgess. I almost really messed that up. Welcome to my thoughts this afternoon. I have said a lot. Devon said a lot. Empress has said a lot, but I hope you've caught most of it. Peace, and the mic is yours.
Yeah, no, well, I just popped in and I caught, a little bit of what you said and something that resonated with you. I think you either posed a question or you said, are we too broke? Right? I don't know if that's, financially or is the people broke? I think there's a combination of both, not all, but a combination of both that have everything to do with, some of the gatekeeping that goes on. As the brother just spoke about, um, trust yourself by all means, sure, but our experiences, I can tell you, I don't know where I fall. I think I'd be not a millennial, I'm more X, but I've had my own people stab me in the back
Oh
trying to
wait,
help
when
me
were you born in the 80s or were you born before the 80s?
before the 80s, before the
So
80s,
you would be a
before the
Generation Xer. So go ahead.
yeah, X. Okay. So what I'm saying is that, I've had my own people that I try to bring up stab me in the back, similar to, you'll hear that over and over again. I don't think that you have to go through some stuff. I think you got to be willing to be mentored and shown some stuff. But I think there's so much distinction between us um, and that brokenness economically till there's a jealousy of that somebody's going to get the bag before you did or you.
JG, you cut out. Did you?
He said some real shit too, but
He
yeah, cut
did.
out.
That's messed up. And to the room, I'm saying he's Gen X because he doesn't sound or seem like he's born in the 60s, but I guess he could have
He said
been
he was born in the
born.
'70s.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
no, he's Generation X.
yeah, he
Um,
said some real shit about black people, niggas thinking other people gonna get the bag first. That's ooh my god. If I ain't dealt with that myself in multiple fronts this year, oh my god, he ain't. Go ahead, E. My bad. I don't. I'm going on a whole different tangent, but go ahead.
no, it's okay. And he's still up on stage. If you want to come back, definitely come back before I close out the space. Because again, I'm not gonna stay here all afternoon. I really had these thoughts. They were pressing on me all week about what is wrong. And I think that what's wrong is I'm looking at people and they're not necessarily doing what they say that they're going to do. But then I'm looking at other people and they are exactly who they say that they are. But how much they've had to endure to get to where they are, that is disheartening. And I'm not sure if y'all are paying attention to these things, but I thought I'd bring it up this afternoon. JG, I'm going to drop you down. If you can hear me, you can definitely come back up before I close the space out. Average Black American, peace to you. Welcome to the stage. About to close it out, but go on ahead and let's get your thoughts on the topic.
Well, I came to the space probably about 10 minutes ago, unfortunately. So I was trying to hear y'all speak more. It just really the title itself drew me. I just want to say hello to everybody. I see a lot of grown folks up in here: Lioness Crown, Miss Eddings, FBA, Empress, War Talks. Just a lot of people, a lot of grown folks up in here. But just that alone, the title alone, piques my interest because I'm somebody that's exactly on the cusp, right? And so I'm like, I got a piece of both. I'm what they call a zennial. I'm right in the middle of what they call a zennial, 75 to 85. I'm born in 80. You know what I'm saying? So, and I got like both the whole Gen X. I have a Gen X's confrontation style. You know what I'm saying? Like if I tell you I'm gonna slap the shit out you, I'm gonna slap the shit out you when I see you. I'm gonna, I have to, I have to do what I said I was gonna do, because everybody gonna tell you anyway. Remember you said you gonna slap me, you gotta slap me. There you go. You know what I'm saying? But I can disassociate like a millennial. You know what I'm saying? So but I will say when it comes to how we've been raised, I look at that. A lot of millennials, the elder ones, Gen X's, like we were that first generation, those latchkey kids, those children that you know. Unfortunately, single parent homes started to be normalized. We had to fend for ourselves in many ways. We had to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit, and a lot of us are putting these pieces back together. And it's like we're trying to become the generation, the last stable generation. We're trying to grow into that. What Big Mama and Pop Pop was before the baby boomers. We're trying to be that again. That generation that Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Farrakhan was from. Two parent households that'll get together and stand, shoulder to shoulder and fight against white supremacy and not just party it up and just go for self so much. I think some of us want to be that again. That's what I see anyway with the ones who are conscious. um, I like what Dewan B talked about, the whole pocket watching thing. Man, that just gets me. You trying to do your thing, and you get this energy from people where it seems like they have a fear of where you're gonna go, how fast you're gonna get there, and don't want to cheer you on. And they be focused on focused on I don't know. They don't really cheer you on, and they don't see how you getting somewhere is something, even spiritually, is positive for yourself. I have a friend that's doing well. I love it. It inspires me. I love seeing other Black people do well, and it lifts my spirits to see that. Because I believe in myself. But I've also been around people who get real jealous with another Black person making it. Oh, he think he all that. They'll transpose the intentions of them and their low vibrational shit onto that other person. Oh yeah, he think this about himself, and it's like, how you know what he think? He might just be just focused on him and trying to improve. That's what I be on. I'm just trying to do better for me. I don't think, oh, I want to be better than you. I don't think that. I hope you do better. I hope you're happy, because that hater energy, it kills, and there's a lot of people that have that. Unfortunately, even in our community, conscious community. What I'm saying? Those of us who want more for our people, we say we do, but there's that, that weird hater, sabotagery just energy sometimes. And I don't get it. And we definitely got to speak to that and get it. We got to be accountable to each other. We got to be loving to each other. And we definitely got to cheer each other on. Nobody has the formula, because if they did, we would have been where we're trying to get to. So we got to listen to, what different people say, whose intentions are pure and whose actions are consistent. We got to look at what they're doing. We in a position to try a lot of different shit to get there. We ain't got to use just one road. You know, and I like what Dewan B said also when he said, when somebody tells you who not to listen to, really look closely at that person. And that's some real shit. That's deep, bro. Because every time somebody told me not to listen to somebody or watch out for them, they be trying to like just put poison in the water. That person always be full of shit. Always. It never fails. They always got something weird and some agenda, ulterior motive. They don't ever be on no real shit. And the person who they tell you not to fuck with be the one that's really on some real shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like some people out here, your angels irritate their demons. I'll say that again. Your angels irritate their demons. You just be living your life the way you're supposed to be, trying to get to where you're trying to get to, and you just existing and being pure and happy. That fucks with them. they're jealous of your happiness. They could have more money than you. They could legit on paper look like they doing better than you. They could have the bigger house and all of that, and they still gonna be jealous of you because you happy with yourself. You know what I'm saying? You love who you are and where you're going, and you just got that spirit about you. They hate that. They fucking hate that. And I see that.
Hey, bruh, I wanna double what you just said about them having it, because a lot of times we'll get, and people who are watching from the sidelines, they'll say, "Well, that person has more money than you. Why would they hate on you?" The person I was talking about that took my music idea 10 years ago and ran off with it, that nigga was playing for the L.A. Clippers at the
I,
time. He was a fucking millionaire. He was in the NBA. Yeah, money wasn't a thing, but they can't. It's people with the money. They don't have that thing. They ain't got that. They ain't got that isness. They ain't got that. They ain't got that thing that needs to that helps things grow. They ain't got no sunshine. They some dark motherfuckers. They ain't got no sun, so nothing grows. So they gotta take what you got. And people from the outside looking in be like, "Well, they got millions of dollars." Those will be the first ones to take what you got. 'Cause they want to keep their millions of dollars, and then they ain't good enough to create it on their own. So going back to what you said, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. But yeah, that's why I said what I said about you can't listen to people telling you who to listen to, who not to listen to. That's always the shadiest motherfucker in the room.
man, preach that. Yeah, man, it is. You really gotta look at that person. The person who's always hating, who's always trying to, throw salt on somebody. It's the weirdest energy, and it's even weirder. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to degrade no ladies in the room, but when it comes from a man, it hits even worse because you be like, bro, like, like the code, man, like you hating on this dude. Like, why you telling us not to fuck with him? Like, what's the problem? It really lowers you. It's like, come on, man. We grew up playing team sports, and a lot of us did, or whatever. You know that if the dude is a star and he got that, you gotta let him do what he does. And so when you see that, yeah, it really hits. And then Tariq said something that was real too about when a dude be speaking to his lady about another dude and always hating on him. Like your lady start getting interested in that other dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, let me go ahead and check this dude out. Why you hate him so much? He do what? He got what? Let me go look at him since you so pressed by this dude. Why are you so concerned with another dude? That's weird. They see that something's off with that energy too. When it goes back to the different generations, you know, yeah, I mean we're one. And the only generational competition I want to see is how quickly can one of our generations get us to the promised land? Because the millennials, I'm sorry, the Generation X, it's Generation X's time. It's becoming the millennials' time. But shit, 60. If you was born in 65 or after, to me, you ain't old anyway. You're not old. So, and if you a millennial, you definitely ain't old. And we on deck, and it's our time right now to push us forward. So, and as a zennial, I'm like, they both my generations, them my folks. And as a black person, all it is we just different ages. And I listen to some of my older Generation Xers because they know more than me, and even if they made some mistakes, like who better to tell me where not to go than the person that went there and fucked up? I listen to that because I know that it takes a lot to admit that you fucked up, made some mistakes. And then it takes love to tell me, hey man, this is where I fucked up at. Don't go there. Don't say, oh, you fucked up. Why should I listen to you? Sometimes that'd be the person you should listen to. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that wine on from the liquor store that live a fucked up life, he tell you some real shit that nobody else out there can tell you. It'll be something where you like, damn, I ain't never thought of it like that. Or whatever. He done seen some of the darkest shit ever and can give you some wisdom. So I landed there.
That's absolutely much appreciated. Thank you for coming through before we close it out. Because sometimes, I'm about to close it out, and then y'all come through and offer a perspective that I hadn't quite thought about to talk about, but it is something on my mind. You said nobody knows because we aren't there yet. And while I agree with that, we aren't there yet because everybody feels like you got to do it one way. And that's so crazy to me. Like, if you can sit here and make a sandwich 5 different ways, 10 different ways, if there's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then a cheese and tomato sandwich, and then anything and everything in between, like, you can't sit here and tell me that you got to do things one way. And okay, I know that that's very loose. That's so broad, Eve. You're extremely loose with your goalpost here. But what I'm saying is is that because we aren't where we're supposed to be, and because everybody feels like you have to do it a certain way, maybe there are different ways to get it done. And maybe when we start addressing people like that, like how you would in a classroom, some students need to hear it, some students need to see it, some students need to do it, some students need all of that. And then some students just know because their
And
parents are just on it. So, that there's something else going on as well.
if you know this dropped into me, you have a coaching background. I coach basketball. People who coach sports have and who are involved in sports, not just as fans, but intimately involved, see it from a certain that did it on a certain level, because you understand team and you understand, you need the different roles and positions. And in society, they try to tell you, oh, it's LeBron James, oh, it's Michael Jordan. And they don't make it. They don't showcase the fact that Pippen and Jordan were equally important. Robin was equally important. You need a rebounder. You need somebody that's gonna clean up the scraps, gonna do all the dirty work, shit that don't other people don't want to do. The stars need the people who are just gonna hit the jump shot. The stars need people who are just gonna rebound, who are just gonna play defense. That way, when the game is on the line, the star can then elevate and be the star and finish the game off. But in order for the star to get to the point to where they can finish the game off and get the glory, they need everyone to do their work up until then and through then. And what happens is you get these people that come in thinking that they want to be the star, devaluing the role of the role players, not understanding the role players is what allows you to be the star. Because before Jordan had the proper role players, he was just a nigga that made a lot of points. That year, I was here in LA back in 2006 when Kobe had goddamn Smush Parker and Kwame Brown on his squad. Kobe was the goddamn, that was some of the best basketballs I've seen in my life. But they got their asses handed to them every night because the rest of them niggas sucked. It wasn't until he got role players that can actually do the job. That once you get the role players that can do the job, you give them and you allow them to be exactly who the hell they need to be. What's happening is you're getting these people who want to be stars and they don't understand team, and they're making it about themselves, and they don't want to pass the ball, not understanding that passing the ball is the only thing that's going to help you be the bigger star that you were supposed to be anyway. So again, that's why I think it's glad we had this discussion. You got to have, these kind of talks. We can't just be blindly following anybody or any ideal or be blindly with any group. None of that shit work. If anything, that civil rights generation taught us was that organizations get infiltrated and fucked over. So that shit don't work.
Actually, real quick, Dwan, I don't mean to cut you off or anything. And Marcus, I see you up here. I'm gonna let you go as well. Um, Judge, I think I'm gonna let you go as well, but you gotta give me a second to
So get it for
get
me.
my
That's
bearings.
all I
But
want to say. Go ahead.
um the when all right, listening to people who say not to listen to somebody, that is so real. However, if I say don't listen to Roland Martin, I'm going to give you a reason for why you shouldn't listen to Roland Martin, and then do what you want to do, because for real, I'm not that type of in control person, but I am a person who's saying that if you're saying something, then your actions should reflect that something. And then if you if your actions aren't reflecting that something, then maybe just don't say anything. That probably would be better for me. Now, y'all do what you want to do, but I'm just telling you my disconnect with what all I'm seeing in our generational divides is that people aren't saying and doing. It's not meshing. That math is not mathing. And then from there, we're supposed to already be passing it down. So if we're still in this conflict, we're not passing it down. All we're doing is passing down a conflict, and we don't need to be passing down a conflict. So, if people are telling you not to listen to somebody, please let it be with some sort of evidence or documents or whatever it is. And like Dewan said, how we can feel the music, you can feel when something's off with somebody. So it might not necessarily need to be said or spelled out. However, you need to feel those feelings. Don't dismiss them.
Eve, real quick.
You're Go ahead.
With that, we saying like the whole not listening to other people point. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that because I did not clarify it. It's when people go so far as to say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do, and it's just because of that, and that's it. Right. We do need to send warning signals out because there are people out there right now who I hear out there who I hear say things, especially in that damn metaphysical community, that's hella dangerous. So if somebody says, "Hey, to listen to them for yourself," I don't listen to that person, and that person can't do nothing for me. But go ahead and listen to you for yourself, and you'll find out. But it's just flat out, don't mess with that person because they did something to me. Well, that so that, what did you do to them? Half the time you did something and they just reacted on your punk ass. I ain't getting involved in that. That's all I'm saying with that part.
Yes, absolutely. I felt like it needed to be clarified for the future and prosperity of this space. It will be available on my YouTube, which is in the jumbo. It's just Eve on YouTube. To the people who just came in the room, I appreciate y'all for coming through. I'm sorry that you haven't really had the opportunity to speak like you wanted to speak on the topic to the Zennial, average Black American Zennial. That's so funny to me. I think that that that's real because there are people on the cusp of the information, and what do they do with it? Do they keep it because other people around them have kept it and they can see the benefit and what that looks like, or do they pass it and then succumb to a life of having to continue to scrap, because that's where we are. A lot of people who are passing on what they have are still having to fight for what they have. They're not in this comfortable situation where they can just sit back and advise. So, I mean, I get all of that. But if we are people who want us to be whole, well, certain sacrifices will be made in order for us to be whole. Nobody knows how to do it because nobody has gotten to the point, or at least not enough of us have gotten to the point where we've released control and said, how you do it, if it gets the result that we're looking for, okay. And then if you're fortunate enough to be able to pass on the information and other people who get it like you can get it, well, now we're in a different ball field. We're in a different arena. We've become competitive because the other people that we're supposed to be competing against, this race that we're in, they're attacking from all different angles. Their links are not broken, or at least the links that are broken get handled with in a whole other way. So, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the easier way. It's up to y'all which way. Um, Peace, Marcus. Welcome to the stage. We've been having a very interesting and constructive conversation, I think, about the generational divide, if there is one, and what to do about nothing or something. Go ahead.
Much appreciated. Shout out to everybody in the room. Just a great topic as usual. Shout out to Dwan B, FBA Empress, everybody in the space. I've been in and out, but one thing I wanted to speak on this topic is that it brings up especially when we talk gatekeepers and things like that. It brings up the question, in any generation, are you committed to the culture, or are you committed to your ego, right? Are you committed to growth, or are you committed to your patterns? And one thing that I've seen, a lot, just being in mental health, and having, certain clients and things like that, working through some of the family issues. A lot of times in that older generation, you have this, um, not only just gatekeeper mentality, but also this lack of accountability and this almost hardened perspective where there's no more growth, almost like this arrogance of perspective where this is how I think, this is how I feel, and I'm not committed to being better. I'm not open to any other perspectives. I'm not here to move the needle for the culture. I'm not here to reach down and pull anybody. I'm here to take up space and block anyone who may be the next or the better version. And that level of fear, you know, just in general, trauma is my focus, and trauma inherently creates an imbalance of fear. So we, when you're operating from a fear-based perspective and you do that continuously, you that it when we're talking about chains, right? You're creating a disconnect because you're not loyal to the culture, the lineage, the progression. You're loyal to what you're scared of, and protecting yourself from that next person who may outshine you. But the problem with that is you may be suppressing the one person below you in generation who could have come up and elevated you to a totally different stratosphere based on the fact that you reached your hand down and gave the guidance, and then they, we think like because Dwan B always, he's the goat when it comes to talking about music and everything. Like if you think about like Billboard charts and everything like that with the Drake, MJ, and all of this talk right now, right? If you reach down and bring up that next person who might be dynamic, who might have even learned from you, they can put you in a different space at a different level, right? And have you in a different light. Not that it's about that, but that's the rite of passage. That's how it's supposed to be interconnected in that way. And it really boils down to where do your commitments lie. And I like what Duane was talking about as far as like how long it takes to get to a certain point, right? A lot of us have, I can relate to that a lot. A lot of us may have had goals and wanted it to happen a lot faster than it did. A lot of us have these different dreams and we go through hell, hardships, we lose family member after family member. And life is, and you just keep pushing through because one, that you're going to get there with that level of persistence, but two, that the circumstances that are building you and putting you through that trial by fire are creating the person that you need to be to receive that thing that you were asking for. So a lot of us, you know, just focusing on bettering ourselves and making sure that we're perfecting whatever unique talent and craft that we have so that we can better our community, and everything else falls in place. But the ones who are fear based, the ones who are blocking the growth of the next generations to move up, for those who are not reaching their hand down and pulling everybody up, they got to get the hell out of the way. And their wall will collapse whether we force them out or not. And that's just the way it is. And I'll land there.
Hey, real quick, Eve, I'm gonna say real on what he said real quick, just to prove it musically. What he said, and I appreciate that. What made Barry Gordy was the fact that he was able to reach back and see that there was talent right behind him that could take him further. Barry Gordy was a great songwriter in 1950s. He wrote Jackie Wilson's biggest hits. Um, and through Jackie Wilson, when he wrote those hits for Jackie Wilson in the late 50s and brought on the Andantes, that made Barry Gordy the hottest motherfucker out there. Then that gave him the money to create Motown. He created Motown and he was writing their early hits. But he heard somebody named Smokey Robinson and he realized Smokey had a talent that he didn't have. So what he did, then he found Holland Dozier Holland, Norman Whitfield. What he did was he found songwriters that were younger and better. He found music producers and arrangers that were younger and better, and he hired them and he mentored them, and he made it a competition between young and old. Now he didn't just give it to them; he worked in pods, he worked on teams, and so Ashford and Simpson and all those different groups that came in as writing and producing teams in Motown, they all had to get together and compete, but it was with the guidance and the nurturing of the elder generation and uplifting the younger people. And through him getting a lot of people who are younger than him who did what he did, but him being humble enough to recognize that I don't want to say better or worse because it's just different. The new generation has the sound of what's going on now. And it keeps going at. So when Barry Gordy had that formula, he was able to create something that was bigger than him. And him being the owner of Motown is much further, much more than anything he could have ever done if he was just Barry Gordy, the songwriter. Barry Gordy, the songwriter, would have been someone who wrote great songs, and he probably would have gone past in time in history the same way a lot of people who were great songwriters back then we don't recognize now. But he's going to live forever more because he understood I got to support the generation next. He fell off when rap and hip hop came around. Somewhere along the way, he forgot that the young generation is what got him there. His refusal to embrace rap and hip hop when it came around is what ultimately led Motown to have to go ahead and sell and go out of business. Well, under his leadership, because it worked when he had the formula of embracing the younger people below him. But the minute he forgot that formula and turned his back on the next generation, that's when everything that he did got stale and fell off. And I think that's a lesson for us to remember.
Definitely lessons to remember. And it actually brings me to a point. Um, Conscious and Miss Eddings, I see your hands up. I'm going to let you speak before I close out the space. Empress has a space at 4:30 that y'all should definitely check out because it is related to Dewan's upcoming premiere. It's bigger than hip hop. It's all related. Everything that at least everything that my hands are involved in, anything that I'm promoting is all for us, by us. And then how you get there, that's on you. If you say that you want to do something, I support you, and then get there. And if I can help you get there, I'm going to do my best to help you get there. So that's what I do. But I'm just Eve. So I need your help. You can support those different respective channels by tuning in, sharing, and all that stuff. I hear my minis in the background. I don't know if y'all do, but I apologize for all of that. But it's growing pains, whatever. Um, to what Marcus was talking about, the trauma that we've epigenetically inherited or actually experienced, that's real. And if you don't care about what you've gone through, then you're not going to be able to pass down what you've received or what you've gotten or what you've worked for, because you can't articulate it the right way. Even if you've been able to do all of these other things, it's not going to be authentic, at least not the way that you think it is. So I think that these conversations put a pause on what we're doing if you participate in these conversations. So, my channel, it's in the jumbo. It's Just Eve on YouTube. You can be a fly on the wall. That's cool. I think that when you listen to some of these thoughts that we're having, that might give you your own thoughts about how you need to get to where we need to get to. Because collectively, we have somewhere to be. And if enough of us get that one thought, then we'll get there. But so far, we're not there yet because enough of us haven't had that one thought. So thank you for participating in these conversations. But do make it brief because again, Empress has a space at 4:30 that I think that y'all should participate in. Conscious, your hand was up first. Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
stage.
Thank you. I will keep it short. I enjoy your space. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it really quick. Me being a Generation X person, I would say I have a millennial because I have a 29-year-old and I also have a 20-year-old, and my parents are boomers. So with that being said, it's not necessarily a age thing, it's a mind thing and where people are at in their mind. And because like my mother, I hate to say, I'm gonna put her out there. She's like 67, and she's very up to par. Like she's not good with technology, but as far as evolving her mind and knowing where we going in the struggle and stuff like that, like she's able to change. But she knows that there are people of her age range that are not willing to change. And so she reaches back and helps me. That keeps her young, and that wises me up. And it goes down the ranks when it gets down to my children. Now, some of my children are a little bit more mature than the other ones. Like my daughter, she's 20, but she's very mature, and she can see the things, and she can take the download, and she can grow. So with that being said, I'll land this really quick. We have to be able to have grace on both ends. We have to be able to know that some of the elders are not going to get out the way, and those the ones that we have to get out the paint, and we have to have someone of their age or their level to let them know, look, sit down, get out the way. And then we have to know when to get out the way, because we're not going to be here forever, and to make sure we impart knowledge into the ones that come after us, just in case we're not able to complete the fight that was is most important to all of us, is reparations. So, and we have to be the ones to hold accountable our age range. I'm not going to try to hold a boomer accountable, and I'm not going to come down on a Generation Z or whatever. I'm not going to try to browbeat them. Nah. I'm going to give them grace and let them grow and evolve. But the olders, they going to get stuck there. I'm going to find somebody to get them out the paint. So I'm going to land right there.
No, I appreciate that because, again, that's not how I'm moving per se, but if that's how you can move and that makes your square and around you specifically, that's what it's about. And it's not all gonna look the same way. It's really not. But there are certain things, some certain um, things that we have to, be on code about. So I appreciate that you said that your daughter, she's 20. Sometimes the people who can teach us things are younger than us. But if you aren't a person who can be led, then you're not a person who can lead. And if you're a person who can't lead, then should you be so loud about what you should be doing? And again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do as much as I'm saying that I think there's something that needs to be done. And as far as what I'm doing, well, I've been talking about it for the past 2.5 hours. I hope that you've been able to garner what I'm doing about the problem. But can you do more? Can we do more? I think we can. I think that y'all's thoughts matter. I think that we can talk about it. I think that we're savvy enough to do that. Dwan said we're not corny. We're not. If you see a corny Black American, they've been exposed. They've been bit. America needs a flea bath and a rabies shot. YouTube, don't do it to me. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I apologize, will you not strike my channel? Okay, I'm sorry. Miss Eddings.
Hey, thank you, Just Steve. Shout out to you, YB family in the building. One thing I want to say is, we need to get in the habit uh, of patterns. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a proud Gen Xer, and I played the video games. So I learned the pattern. But I also apply that to people as well. And so when I got to the point where I was like, I want to do better, I got a mentor. I heard you guys talking about coaches. You need to seek out. And I will say this, the hardest thing for me was listening to somebody that was older than me that had together, but they still had antiquated ways. So I had to humble myself and say, hey, okay, there are some traits and qualities and some of the things that I need help with, and I just it basically ate the meat and spit out the bones. So I think the problem when it comes to millennials and Gen X's are finding a mentor. If you're a millennial and you want to do better, and there is a Gen Xer, like at some point, you got to humble.
Miss Eddings, I'm sorry. I gotta cut you. I gotta cut you off. Can we, okay. Y'all are gonna hate me for this. You're gonna hate me for this. A mentor, y'all know where mentor comes from, right? Like, this was a person who was fucking people, fucking little boy. This is a mentor that I don't think we need mentor. I think we need family. I think if you think about what they've been attacking the Black family. It's not just him, it's not just us, and it's not just the minis, it's all of it. And because it's this big thing, like, that's what we need to be looking at. Dewan and his wife, that's a family. That's people who can do something for us in a big way because they don't have minis. Like, that, to me, that's a whole other sacrifice. But it's not just them. There are other people out here who are this unit that we're not necessarily looking as an example because they don't have resources. And then it goes back to my thought about, are we too broke for loyalty? Like, I really think that I might do a space about that, because I feel like we look at people and what they have, and then we start discrediting their thoughts. Or people who have other things, we start giving their thoughts more credence or credibility. But then it's like, is that it? Is that everything? Is that all? And then I feel like, or at least me, Just Eve, is having uh, other thoughts about where we're supposed to be. Like, how do we exist without family? So I'm sorry. The mentor thing, when you started talking about it, it just brought me back to the whole loyalty. And if we're just a people who just said fuck y'all, like, you don't deserve it because you don't have it. And mentor, I don't know. Maybe it's a trigger word for me. Go ahead.
I, I don't. Well, I don't know. I don't have that same experience that some of you all have in this space. I lost my mother. I lost my father. My family scattered all over the place, and the person that I have is a wonderful person. Granted, she is a boomer. Granted, she does say a few things, but I watched her pattern, and so my point is, there's some things that she has taught me that I needed to know, because when I lost my mother, I was younger. You know what I mean? And so I guess maybe she's one of us. She's a foundational, but I do appreciate that. And I didn't mean to trigger anything. I was just actually just talking about my experience, and I was trying to talk about this gap that we have. It's also out of respect. I feel like there's not enough respect given um to each other. But I will say this, um if there is somebody that is in your life that you see that's doing, better than you, and they are of the lineage and they live that positive life, you know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anything wrong with um, um, getting close to them or talking to them or asking them questions, especially if they're willing to share and they're willing to, give you some of that knowledge. That's the direction I was going into, but I will land. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That was beautiful. I'm glad you were able to expound on that, so I can tell you very clearly that the woman that you're talking about as your mentor, that's family. Like, we're not looking at this the right way. And these other people, when they say, and they don't say, but when they say I'm white and I say so, that's family. That's family talk. They're talking about each other as each other. And we need to be on some I'm black and I said so. So, like, this woman who shared her experiences, resources, or whatever that made you feel like she's your mentor or whatever. Yeah, I think that that's great. And I think that that's what we should be doing. But that's not, they're how they do things and how we do things. I think once we start taking on their things, it what it looks like, the result is just jumbled. And I think that we can be more intentional about how we get to where we get to. But again, how you do something is not necessarily going to be how I do something. So
Yeah.
please allow me some grace there, Miss Eddington. Like, I wasn't trying to say that that was wrong per se, as much as I was trying to let you know that it's cool that we claim our family. Like, our lineage, that's family. These other people are ganged up against us in the biggest way, and we are looking at each other like, who are you? And that's so wrong. When I was in Cali, look, I don't know if this is of your culture, Dewan, so you're gonna have to let me know. Um, but everybody was very friendly. I don't think that I was ever in a situation where people didn't want to say hi or good morning or what's up, or people just were people were
Mhm.
friendly. And I
Yep.
think that some places people are not paying attention to the other people. And when you've got a place where people are paying attention to you, that matters. and we're in a culture where people are paying attention to their phones or the screen or
Hmm.
not to the people, and then we're thinking about how we're talking to people or how we're reacting to people or how we're dealing with people. All of that matters. So the generational divide, if it's there, or how we can combat it, I think that
Hmm.
as long as we're paying attention to all of it, it we'll get to where we need to get to. So, again,
Yeah, I
Miss
was.
Eddings, I'm sorry if you felt some kind of way. I didn't mean to diminish the relationship that you had with your mentor, but mentor, they was fucking
It's
little
the
boys.
word.
Like,
It's the word.
it's a
It's
trigger
the
word for
word.
me,
It's
Dewan.
not the sentiment. It's the word. It's but yeah, like, and I'm about to jump over to FBI Empress room in a second. But that's what you experience. I'm glad you got to experience it, and that's really what LA's about. You were in a room around a whole bunch of LA black people. We have a like one part of my mission. What I'm doing is another reason why I'm doing the whole is bigger than hip hop mission is because hip hop. If we're gonna tell the truth and the whole truth, yes, it's something we created. Yes, it's one of the biggest phenomenons around the world. But if we're gonna tell 100% of the truth, it's the lowest vibrational form we've created musically. That's telling the whole truth. Out of everything we created, hip hop is of the not all of it, but when it gets to this lowest point, it's lower than anything that we've ever created. It's the least musically sophisticated sound we've ever created because it didn't come with its own sound. It just basically copied off everything before it. Every other sound that we've created, they came up with a different twist on the instrumentation that created a whole new format that didn't exist before. Uh, so hip hop is the least musically sophisticated. It's the least musically profound. It's the least communal of all the forms of music we've created. And and that's again, it's not to shit on hip hop. That's just telling the whole story. That's all it is, And but with that being said, with it being so least sophisticated, musically less sophisticated, that's what opens it up for the rest of the world to enjoy it on the level that they enjoy it, because they don't have to deal with the complexity of our culture when we're dealing with mass-produced hip hop. Not saying that all hip hop is like that, because there's some extremely sophisticated hip hop when we talk about outcasts and people of a certain ilk within that genre. Said all that to say, as a people, we've been we've been led to we're defending something that needs it's a conversation that needs to open up. It's a conversation that really needs to deal with our complexities. We need to focus on that, and we need to look at the higher class amongst us. One thing hip hop has done that I do not like is it associated LA and the West Coast with gangsterism. No, no, I've always hated that shit. I'm from South Central, and being from South Central, the hardest part was it be these people who live just on the outside of the city in the valley and past the fucking Dina and these weird ass places where and they go around perpetuating this gangster shit, and then the rest of the country goes around. I look around. I was in Dallas earlier this year. I see like in Fort Worth, a place like that, they really do be in the Crips and Bloods. Like LA got off the red and blue 20 years ago, and it's more about cats pushing their money than it is street colors and shit. But hip hop brought that whole gangster image, that whole image of black people being rough and tough out here, and we are. But and that element does exist. But the bigger element is LA is hella cool. We dealing with niggas south of the 10 freeway. We chill, man. We don't deal with no pretentiousness. We don't deal. We ain't on that Hollywood shit. You know what I mean? We're very open. We're warm. We're friendly. If you give eye contact to another black person out here, we're going to greet you. We don't play all that. If somebody out here in LA turn their nose up at you, that's somebody that ain't from here. They probably came here from somewhere else. Well, they definitely came here from somewhere else. So that's who we are as a people. And LA is the home of rhythm and blues, the most communal, welcoming form of music that God has ever created through us is the R&B. That has more of an impact on LA and LA culture than the whole gangster shit. And I'm glad you got to experience that, Eve, because that's truly how we get down. Well, I had some really big heavyweights in that room that night, but you wouldn't tell. It wasn't that kind of attitude. And the night was so much love and joy in there. I didn't need to name drop the celebrities that came in that night. I didn't need to name drop the big time network executives and law firms and people. It was some real heavyweight in there. But what you got to see was true Black American culture, true Black American community. It didn't matter who was the top law firm. Y'all know I had the fucking head of Rolls Royce in that room that night, y'all. Black, one of the heads of that company. Couldn't nobody tell? We was chilling. Cause that's how the fuck we get down in LA. It ain't that bullshit. And so that's another reason why I'm having my documentaries bigger than hip hop, because it's more than just the musical aspect. It's a cultural perspective, and it's us getting in alignment with who we are as a culture. We are welcoming, we are warm, we're loving, we care about one another. We do have community, although that may not get highlighted. And I'm having this documentary, releasing it, knowing that 99% of the time I've been screwed over has been by another Black man. Yeah, that's true, but we live in a fucked up society that screws people. Everybody gets screwed over, and these are and these are issues of proximity. I'm closest around Black men, so of course they're going to be more likely to screw me over because I don't kick it with Armenians and white people like that. So it's not about, hey, if you've been screwed over by a Black person, which I'm sure all of you have. If something's happened, you can't ever hang that up and say all Black people did. I'm not gonna try anymore because that's what niggas do. You sound like a punk when you do that. Usually the people that say I'm not gonna do it no more because that's what niggas do. Usually you the main nigga that's looking to screw over another nigga. So I really gotta watch out for niggas like y'all. But at the end of the day, no matter how many times you've been screwed over by a Black person, that's just part of the poison we've been dealing with. We still got to keep our hearts open towards one another. We still got to love one another, and we still got to give each other a chance. And that's how we're gonna break this cycle. And that's all I want to say with that.
Definitely thank you for those thoughts on that, because it is bigger than just the sound, but it's more. And if y'all care about our story, then you will support different projects that are sure to bring you the whole story. And then, take from it what you want to take from it, because it's going to be thorough. It's going to be something that you can, play back and learn from. So,
I'm about to jump over to her room,
yeah, go
so
for
I
it. Yeah,
appreciate y'all. All right.
definitely. Shout
All
out
right.
to you. Thank you. To the room, Millennial versus Generation X. I think that there's been plenty of examples of Generation X helping. But then if you're not paying attention to the ones that aren't helping, then I think that we are adding to the problem. So we would need to highlight when it works and then highlight when it doesn't work. We can't just not say anything, or we have to be more vocal about when it's not working to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done. If you're not going to address the problem, it's going to fester. So I'm saying very plainly that there's a generational divide, and it doesn't have to be like that. But it's up to you to do something about it, whether you're a millennial or a Generation X. Some of us don't even want to say that we need help. We're just out here doing the most, and that's not the way to be either. So do what you want. I'm just Eve. But shout out to y'all for joining me in this space. And go ahead and, if you want, join Empress's space, because she's talking about basically the same thing, but in a bigger way. It's bigger than hip hop. Dewan's premiere is coming out this week, and y'all should check that out too. Black First.